And one last look at your traffic and weather from the Wetzel's Automotive Traffic Center here on your Monday. Several accidents to report, one at Alpine and I-20, another one at Green Street in Henderson, another one as well at Old Hilton and Chapin Road, Sunset Boulevard at Highway 12, and one more at I-26 eastbound at exit number 110. It's back to being hot again. Today's high is 94. There is a chance for a pop-up thunderstorm later on in the day. Tomorrow, high of 88, and Wednesday, high of 90. That's your traffic and weather from the Wetzel's Automotive Traffic Center here on the early game. Nine o'clock on your Monday morning. Welcome in. It is the Extra Point. I am Tyler Head. He is Jack Veltri. I feel the need to properly introduce ourselves because we are now officially live in Charleston this morning as well, Jack.
Thank God. That is good news to hear, man. I'm glad we're pretty much, at this point, we're pretty much across the state, right?
Pretty much. You can hear us.
Like Myrtle Beach, Charleston,
Florence, Columbia, where you can't escape us pretty much in the state of South Carolina, which is fantastic.
Which is what you want to hear. And, we also have the app. We have the website. I mean, there's just every possible way to listen to us.
Yep.
We're there.
So shout out to everybody tuning in on WIWF 96.9 HD3. Welcome into the Extra Point. Again, he is Jack Veltri. I'm Tyler Head. Jack Veltri from Gamecock Central. As we're excited. We're 13 days away from kickoff for Gamecocks starting the season against Virginia Tech. I was actually down in Charleston this past weekend in the Isle of Palms area. Got on the beach a little bit when the rain finally went away. Went over to I don't know if you've ever been to the Hunley Museum.
I have
down there in Charleston.
Oh, you know what? Actually, I do remember that. In 8th grade, my middle school took a field trip to Charleston, and we did go to the Huntley Museum on the last day, but that was I was exhausted. I think I passed out just sleeping in there. Just before we left. I mean, it was exhausting, but it was cool from what I remember. Yeah, I went about 10 years ago with my family. My wife had never been, so we went down there. It's changed a lot. They've added a lot of things to it, so if you haven't been in a long time, I highly recommend it. But yeah, I was down in the Charleston area this past weekend. Kind of one final weekend to get out and do something before football gets here. Again, week 0 that's coming up this weekend. Locked into those games, and then, 2 weeks from yesterday, we are off and rolling. Yeah, no, you're definitely right about the fact that this past weekend really was the last true weekend before football really picks up. And yeah, we're a few days away from college football this week on Saturday. And then, less than 2 weeks, it's going to be here before you know it with week 1. We have some notes from the scrimmage over the weekend to dive into, but first, we always kick things off with our 9 a.m. Sandstorm Pick-Me-Up.
Time to get hyped. Here's your 9 a.m. Sandstorm, sponsored by George Sink Injury Lawyers. Just call all nines.
It is time for your 9 a.m. Sandstorm Pick-Me-Up, brought to you by South Carolina's largest injury law firm, George Sink Injury Lawyers. If you've been hurt in the car or at work, call George Sink now at 803-ALL-9s. As we approach the start of the season, camp rolls on. We had our second scrimmage of fall camp on Saturday, again, closed to media, so you guys have to go with whatever detailed insights you can get coming away from it from people that were there to see it. Not quite as many notes, it seems like, compared to the scrimmage from the prior weekend. We did get the fact that the offense was moving the ball well, which sounds good. Obviously, Mike Shula calling plays now, and we'll see how different that might look with the game coming up here in a little under 2 weeks. If you could ask for one specific detail of this offense from the scrimmages, what is something you really want to know that's been done over these past 2 weekends?
I think just how how is the offense moving the ball so well? Is it because they're throwing the ball really well? Is that connection with the receivers and Lenore Sellers really good? Like who's standing out in that way? Is it the running game doing really well? Or is it just a combination of both? I think that's kind of the inner workings of okay, how is the offense moving the ball so efficiently? That's something I'd love to really know.
Yeah, I'd want to know what's the split, like run to pass, right? And I imagine it's going to be pretty similar to what they had a year ago with Dow Loggins, but how much are they using the running backs? We heard good things coming away from this one about Isaiah Gustave, which is good. We heard good things about what Attaway last week and all that kind of stuff, but I'm curious to know what the split is between run and pass with the way Shula's looking at things as of right now.
And at this point, I'm kind of also wondering, how much are they using Rasul Faison in these scrimmages compared to the other guys, right? Because, again, it's 13 days away now from kickoff and still no answer that I know of for his eligibility case. So, at this point, I feel like you're holding out hope, obviously. That's what South Carolina and Shane Beamer have publicly done this entire time now, hoping that something will happen here, and they're optimistic. But at the same time, it's like, hey, you're getting closer and closer to kickoff. Don't have an answer. You got to prep like this is mock game week now. You got to get ready okay, Oscar Attaway, Isaiah Gustave, whoever is your potential starter, if it's not Faison, you got to treat it that as such.
Yeah, and that's the thing. For the first 2 weeks or so of camp, you can go through your drills and situations and all that kind of stuff and plug Faison in, I feel like, without a lot of issue. And, again, there's always the hope that, hey, at any second, the NCAA can call and say, oh, by the way, he's eligible, and then we don't have a problem anymore. But now as you actually get into prepping for Virginia Tech in the coming days, then it becomes like, okay, we still want you to be able to practice. That way you're fresh whenever that call hopefully does come from the NCAA. But now it's like, all right, well, that means Oscar Attaway is now running back number 1, so we have to prepare for that accordingly. And again, Augusta's maybe number 2, Fuller or Howell number 3, or whatever it may be. So now is when it doesn't become tricky, but now you have to really kind of, be careful when and where you use Faison to not take away from the guys that are going to be playing as of right now in that spot.
Yeah, and it seems like South Carolina does a pretty good job of splitting up the reps. Again, I remember Shane Beamer talking about it at the beginning, or right before fall camp got going. They have the 2 practice fields out there, so they have offense on one field, and they have another offense on the other field, and they're able to split the running backs that way, get them each a lot of carries. But as for how it looks in the scrimmage, is probably a little bit different. We don't know exactly what the splits are on who took these carries, who took that many carries. You can imagine Faison probably had some carries, but again, I feel like at this point you're kind of looking at, all right, he still hasn't got an answer.
Yeah.
We need to probably give a little bit more carries to these other guys because it's a large workload that is up for the taking here.
And the question becomes of, okay, if Faison isn't eligible by game number 1, I look at last year, Rocket Sanders, I think, took about 80% of the carries of running backs a year ago. And again, makes sense. He was somebody that had proven he could do it in the SEC in his prior stop at Arkansas. Do you imagine Attaway would take that same kind of load, or are we talking about, I'm assuming he's RB1, right? But that doesn't mean he's going to carry that much of the load. Are you still swapping in Augusta, or you're bringing in Howell more? How does this workload look like it's going to get divvied up is my question.
See, that's a great question. I don't think any of the running backs not named Faison would take on an 80% workload. That's a lot, number one. And I think, no disrespect to the guys like Augustave and Attaway who have been, good running backs before at other schools. But, it's a little different here, I think. And, Oscar did not have a ton. He had about 70 carries last year. So that's off his pace of about having 100. I think I was calculating it the other day, about 114 carries. The other thing is, I think what we're going to see at the beginning of the year, especially if it's not Faison out there, is you kind of see a little bit of everyone, right?
Yep.
I think you get Oscar in there, Isaiah in there, and then you get the 2 red shirts in there with Howell and Fuller. And then I think as the season goes along, I think in that first month, you try and figure out, okay, who really is the RB1? Who's kind of taking that next step forward? Who's separating themselves from the pack? And then you kind of get into figuring out, kind of remember 2 years ago, South Carolina didn't have the true running back either. DeCarrion Joyner was your top.
You tried.
You tried DeCarrion Joyner as your lead running back going into the year. but eventually became Mario Anderson as the year went along.
Yeah.
I think for all the comparisons we draw to 2023 heading into the year, I think that's another one we probably end up seeing is somebody separates themselves from the pack and then they eventually become the lead back. That's assuming, of course, Faison isn't playing.
And I think you can look at it as like a back-by-committee type approach too, especially if, Faison isn't playing. Like, all right, the idea is that Oscar Attaway is RB1, but you're trying to split up the carries somewhat evenly. And again, if we get 2-3 weeks into the season, it's like, wow, Gustave is really popping or Howell's really showing off out there, then you can kind of adjust accordingly, saying, okay, we're going to get him more carries now because he seems to be the best guy of the group, and that can kind of change as the season goes along, honestly. And again, a lot of this would be alleviated if we could just get that thumbs up or thumbs down. Like, that's the other side of the coin here is like, at least if he's not going to play, just tell us, right? If you told us today, hey, so Faison is not eligible, sorry, nothing we can do anymore, then at least we know, right? It's this back and forth of will they, won't they, is it going to happen today, next week, or whatever. That's what's driving us crazy, right? Like if the NCAA would have said back in March, like, sorry, we're not going to give him his eligibility, would have sucked, right? Would have been frustrated by it, but then like, all right, now we at least know we can go on with the running backs that we have and conduct business that way. But like this, oh, well, he could be ruled eligible at any point in time is what drives you mad because it's just this like back and forth of waking up every single day thinking, well, maybe today's the day, and then going to bed saying, well, that wasn't it.
I'm just ready to like not have to talk about it anymore because it's like, at this point, it's like, come on, like, what are we waiting on? It seems like Marshall's gotten the paperwork in on their end, which I think probably was what was holding it up a little bit, but it seems like everything would hopefully be in, the process of being handled now, but we'll see what happens. But, and look, if they're not running the ball that much, the passing game, that's the other thing, how's that looking? And it seems like one guy that really has stuck out early on since coming to campus is Donovan Murph, who we continue to hear good things about. He had the one-handed grab in practice a few weeks back, and I think Chris Clark posted it on the Insiders Forum on Gamecock Central with some notes here. He got a quote that he's quote a dog on the field, so that's good to hear.
The two guys we've heard the most about this offseason as far as freshman wide receivers are Donovan Murph and Brian Rowe. Now again, you have pretty much your entire receiving core returning from last year. So the natural thought is, okay, it's going to be Harbor, it's going to be Jared Brown, Mazio Bennett, those kind of guys kind of leading the way. But again, none of those guys were like superstars last year. Like nobody had 1,000 yards. Nobody had over 500 yards out of the receiving core. Josh Simon obviously led the way a season ago. So the opportunity is there for Murph or Rowe to really break in and have an impact, much like Mazio Bennett did last year as a true freshman. I guess you're kind of almost flipping the coin between which one of those guys is going to come in and have the biggest impact based on, again, what we've heard this offseason.
And, in that competition, competition there, because, again, South Carolina doesn't have a true number one receiver for the second year in a row. And that's something I think you find organically throughout the year. Like, somebody, I think, is going to step up in this round. I think it's a better group overall this year compared to this time last year. And, with Murph, I think he's someone that is super exciting. Obviously, he only got here in the summer, and that puts him behind the eight ball a little bit when it comes to learning the playbook, learning the system, adjusting to college. But it seems like everything's going well so far, and it wouldn't shock me if he's the guy that is the breakout freshman, because I have no doubts there's going to be someone.
Sure.
Brian Rowe's also another guy that had a really good spring game. Seems like things are going well for him. Now, Gerald Kilgore did have that really nice interception that Gamecock Football posted to Twitter, and that was on Brian Rowe. So I guess it's a point against him.
Now, we don't know which quarterback threw that interception, correct?
It did not. No, I don't think so. It did not look like the best ball either. So.
But unlike last weekend, we at least had a turnover this time.
Yeah, no, and I think that was the main thing we were looking for. So, look, the offense moving the ball well, and the defense got a turnover. So, I think, honestly, we talked about last Friday what our goals and hopes were for the scrimmage. Would you say that was probably checks off the list?
Yeah. Now, ideally, you hope that Sellers wasn't throwing that interception.
Yeah.
And, if it's Woods or Nolan or Jimmy Francis or whoever, and like, okay, that's fine. You'll take that. But yeah, for as much as this defense lives and dies by the turnover at times, you hoped you were going to see at least some over the course of camp.
But I think mission accomplished from that standpoint. Again, if that's the only turnover, so be it. And that's a guy that Gerald Kilgore, which he may not be starting, but he's someone that you want to have as a nice depth piece going into the year.
Yeah, he's a veteran. He's been around college football for a while. Obviously second year in this program. So good stuff there. But those are, again, the few notes we got out of the scrimmage over the weekend because, again, it's controlled what comes out of that. And we'll hear more from Beamer coming up tomorrow at 1 o'clock as he gives his assessment of it and starts to finally look ahead to Virginia Tech coming up in just under 2 weeks. We're going to talk some hot takes coming up next. You've answered some hot takes on Gamecock Central over the weekend. We'll also come up with some of our own as the extra point rolls along. Tyler Head and Jack Beltry on your Monday here on The Game. Tyler Head here for our friends over at Twin Peaks. I mentioned a moment ago, we have college football this upcoming weekend. It is week 0, and it's time to break out your game day jerseys because college football is officially back. Grab a round of signature 29-degree draft brews and raise them high to start the season over at Twin Peaks, as well as the NFL preseason running along through this weekend as well. And the starters may only play a drive, if at all, but NFL preseason is still football, and man, we sure have missed it. Plus, if you're searching for some late round flyers, there's no better research than watching every play over at Twin Peaks. And as the football season goes along, you, of course, can take in every single game you want to see with TVs as far as the eye can see. Tons of delicious food. And as I just mentioned a moment ago, those 29-degree draft beers. Get down to your local Twin Peaks and take in yet another amazing football season. Welcome back in. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Beltry along with you on your Monday here on the game. Reminder, this week is the Game Summer Golf Classic, sponsored by Krager Showrooms, formerly the Nest in the Vista. It's this Friday over at Sharper Golf Club in West Columbia. Tee time's at 9. Registration begins at 7:30. We'll have onion sausages for breakfast. The mimosa bar provided by Saki's Wine and Spirits and Firehouse Subs for lunch. We'll have prizes to give away, and the golf gun makes its return. We want to see you out there. If you want to take part, it's only $400 for a team. Give Charlie a call at 803-755-2000. Press the number 2 to sign up. Again, 803-755-2000. And press the number 2 to sign up. Over the weekend, Jack, you posted an article in which you took some, from the...
so on the Insiders Forum, I asked Gamecock Central subscribers to drop their hottest takes heading into the season. Did something like this last year. Seemed like everyone really enjoyed it. I like getting the people on the forum involved in stories when I can, and so they dropped their hottest takes, and I either bought or sell them, meaning I agreed or disagreed with their hot takes.
I wanted to pull a couple of these out, and we'll give our own individual hot takes coming up here in just a minute, but one of the ones that somebody posted was Brian Thomas Jr. has more sacks than Dylan Stewart, and that's something that you bought.
So, again, it may sound a little crazy on the surface because Dylan Stewart is Dylan Stewart, and we've continued to just hear good things about him coming out of fall camp here, but is it really that far-fetched? As I point out in the story, I don't think it's that far-fetched to believe that teams are going to try to double-team Dylan Stewart, kind of like what we saw with Kyle Kennard last year. And let's also not forget, Brian Thomas Jr. had 4.5 sacks last year. So if teams are really honing in on Dylan Stewart and BT's on the other side, I feel like that kind of opens up a lane for him to have more opportunities to get to the quarterback and thus potentially lead to more sacks.
Yeah, and again, Brian Thomas Jr. was that second level of rotation a year ago, opposite or behind, Kyle Kennard. And again, I think it's interesting because, again, Kennard came in here and had a huge impact and obviously won the Nagurski Award, but I do wonder if he wasn't opposite of Dylan Stewart, what those numbers would have looked like. And it is interesting because he ended up being a mid-round draft pick, right? A lot of times guys that wreak that kind of havoc off the edge will go a whole lot higher than that. So I do wonder, the way that the NFL looked at him, like, all right, maybe they thought he was benefiting a lot from that presence of Stewart on the other side. And you almost kind of wonder, okay, could Brian Thomas Jr. benefit from the same thing? And I do think it's realistic that something like that could happen with BTJ getting more, if not the same number of sacks as Dylan Stewart. And I do wonder if this is kind of one of those years because, again, it's not just, around the SEC. Dylan Stewart's known nationwide now as one of the most impactful freshmen from a season ago. And, again, he's going to be number one on that list of, on the game plan when it comes to planning for South Carolina's defense. So I do wonder, could this be one of those quiet seasons statistically, but like when you look at the film, you see the effect that Dylan Stewart is having during the game?
And I remember last year going into the season, I think like Kennard and some of the other guys talked about, it's just so hard to get sacks now, right?
Sure.
Like there's so much protection that goes into blocking for the quarterback and double teaming and stuff like that. That makes it tougher to get to the guy and get a sack. So the fact that Kennard had as many as he did last year, and as much as we talk about Stewart and the success he had last year, which he did, he's only 2 sacks ahead of BT from last season. So again, the margin for this actually becoming true, again, as I said before, it's not as crazy as it might seem.
I also wonder as well, you go back to Clowney's final year here at South Carolina where teams just intentionally went away from him. Like everything was to the opposite side of where Clowney was because they knew he was such a game wrecker. I wonder how much that's going to factor in to other teams' game plan. Like, hey, whatever side Stewart's going to be, we're going to go the other way. We're going to try and move everything away from him to prevent him from wreaking havoc on us.
And maybe that's what we see as well. Maybe it is the double teams and the triple teams and also just having the play go to the other side. And again, that is why whoever is on the other side going opposite of Dylan Stewart, I feel like is really going to have a lot of opportunities early on the year. And if it's a guy like BT, better for him because, again, teams are game planning for Dylan Stewart. They're not necessarily game planning for, Brian Thomas Jr., we got to watch out for him, even though he's a very good player in his own right. Gives him more opportunity to go out there and do some really good things.
And that's why you need that other presence on the other side, because if they're able to, double Dylan Stewart or move plays away from him, and you don't have a threat on the other side, then that's just what they're going to keep doing throughout the entire season, is attacking that side because they don't feel like they're, as concerned about that. And again, last year, Kyle Kennard did a really good job of being that other threat they had to account for. It's like, all right, well, if we double Dylan Stewart, this guy's going to make us pay. If we double this guy, then Dylan Stewart's going to make us pay. So whether it be Brian Thomas Jr., JT Gear, maybe Desu finally, comes together and has that year that we've been waiting for out of him. You just need somebody or a collection of those guys, right? Like maybe it's not Brian Thomas Jr. going out there and getting, 11.5 sacks and being a Nagurski Award winner. But if you can have a combination of those three guys, let's just say, combined for double-digit sacks, where, again, there's a consistent presence on the other side that you have to account for, that works too. I'll take that.
And think about what having two really good edge rushers coming off the edge would do for the interior defensive line. Because don't forget, that's a group that had a lot of production last year. It's gone, so they have to really replace and hope those guys can step up. You have Dylan Stewart and Brian Thomas Jr., or whoever it might be, having a lot of success like Kennard and Dylan had last year. You're looking at a real good opportunity for this defense to have a lot of success.
Think about how much it'll help the secondary as well. That's something we talked about a year ago when quarterbacks were consistently under pressure. They didn't have time to sit back there and wait to throw like they had the year before, to where your DBs are in coverage for much longer. The balls will get where balls were getting out quicker, weren't allowing receivers to run their full routes, and the defense, the back end of the defense was able to take advantage of that. And if you have another good, consistent pass rush, and the DBs are the one area of the team we're not as concerned about because you have a better idea of that group from the talent returning and the talent coming in from the portal, like Braden Cisse. If you can have a good pass rush, those guys can have another really strong year.
And again, the secondary, I think, is that one spot where you lost Nick Emanwar. You lost O.D. Fortune. That's two really good, experienced multi-year starters, but you'll return a lot of those guys that, like Jalen Cook, had 5 interceptions last year. He's back. You have some other DQ Smith. A lot of newcomers joining as well. So the secondary is a good opportunity to make some more havoc if the guys up front do their job.
And I think you lose O'Donnell Fortune, but you bring in a Brandon Cisse, where I think you would look at his production as comparable to what you had in O.D. Fortune if he's going to take that other cornerback spot. So I think that one kind of evens out. Now, yes, losing Nicky Mawari, who very well could have been a first-round pick, that is a significant hole. Again, you feel good about the talent that you have in the safety room, but I'm not expecting it to be this, massive drop-off, right? Like, is anybody going to be as good as Nick? Maybe not. But still, I don't think it's this, gaping hole in your secondary now that he's gone. You can have solid play there that hopefully can maybe eventually measure up to what he was doing.
Definitely. So do you want to get into some of these other hot takes?
Yeah, we'll get some of the other hot takes, and then we'll also share some of our own on the other side as the Extra Point rolls along. Tyler Head and Jack Felcher along with you on your Monday on the Game. Welcome back in. It is The Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Belcher along with you on your Monday here on The Game. Wanted to let you know, today at 11 o'clock, during the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs, we'll be joined in studio by former Gamecock Debo Williams. Be hanging out with us for about half an hour. Obviously talking about the success of last year and giving us whatever kind of preview he can of the defense this upcoming year, hopefully.
Hey, that's awesome to hear, man. Debo, what a fan favorite around here. Great player, and hopefully he gets his shot somewhere in the NFL. I know. I don't think it's worked out with the Steelers from what I read, but hopefully someone will take a chance on him.
He got a camp invite back in the spring. Obviously, if he's not there now, that means that didn't go well. You obviously now have the option of being on practice squads. You have an entire other league in the UFL that comes around in the spring that gives you an option as well. So hopefully he's able to keep that football career going. And again, we'll get an update on that coming up in the 11 o'clock hour as well.
Man, I'm looking forward to listening to it.
So we're talking about hot takes here, which, by the way, let us know your hot takes on the Firehouse Subs text line, 803-404-6100 for Gamecock football. And this all stems from Jack's article yesterday in Gamecock Central, which you can go online and read the entire thing because there's a lot of hot takes in there that were submitted that he reacted to. But another one I wanted to hit real quick is one that you sold, and that was from a reader that suggested South Carolina would go 3-0 in the month of October, which obviously involves that game against LSU, Alabama, and Oklahoma in that stretch there in the middle of the season. And again, we already know South Carolina's got a tough schedule, and that might be the toughest three-game stretch of the entire year. Yeah,
shout out to Rather Be Hunting for that take. It's an interesting one, and I will say that schedule in October is tough. You go to LSU, which, mind you, comes after a bye week. So, in a way, makes it look a little bit like, okay, you have 2 weeks to prepare for that game to get ready. So your odds of winning that game are a lot better compared to if you were coming off, like say you were coming off the Kentucky game or whatever.
Yeah.
With no break in between. Then you get Oklahoma at home and Alabama at home. And those are probably going to be 3 top 15 teams by the time we get to October. I would imagine going to LSU is just really tough. I especially if it's at night. Not everyone wins going in there at night, so that makes it tough. And then you're looking to probably, I would say, you could definitely sweep the 2 games at home, but that might be asking a lot. I think ideally you're probably looking at a 2-1 month at best. I think at worst you could go 0-3. I mean, it's very much possible. We've seen it before in October.
If LSU is as good as I think they're going to be, and we see that consistently through the first month of the season, I probably look at the trip to Baton Rouge as maybe your first loss of the year, right? And again, that's a tough place to play regardless of how good or bad LSU is, and nobody's going undefeated in the SEC, so there's no shame in losing a game. I think everybody in the conference is going to suffer that, and I could see that first game of October being the one you trip up. I feel pretty good about Oklahoma and Alabama, especially considering those games are both here, and we still have questions about both those teams. And obviously, you slaughtered Oklahoma a year ago, and darn near should have beaten Alabama if not for some self-inflicted wounds there. So I feel pretty good about those games right now. Now, again, we'll have a full month of the season at that point in time to maybe shift our idea of those teams drastically in one direction or the other. So my answer is subject to change, but I feel good about your chances to maybe go 2-1 then.
And again, not saying they won't go 3-0. I just don't think they will. But there is the outside chance that they could. Again, like I said, they will be coming off a bye week going into LSU week. And again, maybe by that point they're 5-0 or even 4-1. The confidence is sky high. They have really good preparation. This team has proven before they can be good coming off of bye weeks. But recency shows last year against Ole Miss, they looked awful coming out of the bye week. And then the year before that, they had the 10-point lead against Florida, and then they blew in the fourth quarter. So, again, the team not recently has shown that they can be good coming off bye weeks, but you hope they learn a lot and are in a good spot going into that week. And then the 2 home games, depending on what time they are, too, I think plays a big factor. Because if Alabama's at night, gives South Carolina a major advantage. We know what happens at night at Willie B. And even Oklahoma, there's so many questions about them as we head into the year here.
So what is your hot take? Do you have ones that stands above the rest of something you could see happening that maybe is a little spicy?
So yeah, I'm not taking credit for this one because it was something that someone posted on the Insiders Forum. But like again, it's tough to come up with hot takes when you answer so many. It's like,
sure.
oh, like I'm running out of ideas.
Yeah.
But if I had to take credit for an idea, I'd probably come up with myself. Highest scoring offense in program history. I think is about as hot of a take as you can have. There was another hot take on here about like really specific, like Luke Doty's going to start a game this year, and he's going to have to really step up and lead South Carolina to a win, which is a really cool hot take. Again, hot takes are not necessarily predictions.
Sure.
They're more so like things that you think maybe a little crazy to happen, but if they do, it's like, there's your hot take.
Now, I really hope Luke Doty doesn't have to start a game this year because that means Sellers is hurt. I think given how he got dinged up a lot early last year, the nature of being a quarterback that's mobile and going to get hit a lot, that's a possibility. Now, I think looking at the situation like, hey, maybe Luke Doty has to step in and play a major role in leading you to a win at the end of a game if Sellers got dinged up, that's certainly possible as well. Again, I'm knocking on wood, hoping that none of these things happen, but that also goes back to why Beamer made the point of like, hey, if we were playing tomorrow and Sellers went out, Luke Doty would be the guy because he has that experience that, look, we obviously have a lot higher of an upside for guys like Aaron Nolan and Cutter Woods based on what we think their abilities are, but they're unproven. They have zero experience playing in an actual college football game, and that'll change as the season goes along. Again, you're ideally going to hopefully have a significant lead over SC State in week 2 where those guys can get in and take some snaps and kind of get their feet wet a little bit. So by the end of the season, again, God forbid if Sellers got hurt, your option might change. Like, okay, now we're going to go to Aaron Nolan. Now we're going to go to Cutter Woods or whatever it may be. But start the season until those guys get their experience, it is Luke Doty.
Yeah, I mean, that seems to be the way things are heading. And we'll see if that changes when we talk to Shane this week in press conferences and whatnot. But again, the hot take I would say for me, besides the Luke Doty one's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
And you hope it doesnn't happen. But the highest scoring offense in program history, I don't think it's that crazy. Again, what we're hearing about the offense and the way they're moving the ball, I mean,
do we know what that bar is that we have to beat?
Yeah, so 34.1 seems to be the official record.
Okay.
Again, this is doing a research the other day in 2013, but it would seem the 95 team had 36.5 points. Again,
Okay.
I looked up official record. It said 2013, but then you go to 95, it says 36 points. So South Carolina last year averaged 30.5 points per game. So they would probably need about a touchdown more each game to reach that mark. I think it's kind of possible, considering I think this offense will in some respects be a lot better than last year.
And again, you have one of the better quarterbacks in college football. Something like that is certainly not outside the realm of possibility. My hot take, South Carolina allows 25 or fewer sacks this upcoming year, something they've not done since 2019.
Ooh, I like that because, you know, again, we talk about, I don't think the offensive line was horrendous last year. Not like 2 years ago where they just could not get a starting combination in there. Guys were getting hurt left and right, and they get 41 sacks. Now, coincidentally, South Carolina also gave 41 sacks last year.
They did.
It probably should have been more since Lenore Sellers just has this amazing ability to improvise and break out of tackles and sacks right and left. So you would hope this year you're able to see a little bit better. 25 or fewer. I would sell that probably.
That is still about middle of the pack in the SEC
but it's
most years.
But it's
a lot better.
That's 15 or 16 sacks off your previous mark.
And my reason for that is you mentioned Sellers' elusiveness, which, again, he was not able to do that as much early in the season. And for whatever reason, as the season went along, he just got a whole lot better of slipping out. I don't know, maybe he was covering himself in butter before the game or something, but he got a whole lot better of slipping out of those would-be sacks and making some of those magical plays like we saw late in the season. And then I'm counting on a leap from guys like Josiah Thompson and Casey Henry, assuming he's your right tackle. I know it's still a competition. Tree Babalade is making a case for himself and that kind of stuff because those two guys give up the most pressures on the team. And look, playing tackle is the hardest spot, specifically left tackle, because, again, you're dealing with edge rushers. You got a lot of speed coming off the edge, linebackers, those kind of things. And for both those guys, they were starting their first full seasons. Like, Thompson was a freshman, but Casey Henry had been injured in his first couple years at Carolina. He had never had a full season of starting, so I'm hoping that having that year of experience, having an offseason to work, that those guys are significantly better than they were a year ago. And again, I'm not asking them to be All-Americans. I'm not asking this offensive line to win the Joe Moore Award or something like that. But I hope that, particularly talking about those two guys, their progress from one year to the next can be enough to hopefully cut those numbers in half when it comes to pressures and sacks kind of in turn with the same thing.
And a lot of the sacks the last 2 years, I feel like have come very early in big doses at the beginning of the season. Like 9 sacks in week 1 2 years ago. Really high numbers at the beginning of the year. But as you saw last year, there were a stretch of games where South Carolina wasn't giving up any sacks. Maybe that had a lot to do with Sellers, but also the continuity on the offensive line was another big reason for that. So I think if you have the continuity this year, guys are staying healthy, and you have enough protection for Sellers to make some of the plays that we know he can make, I think that number does go down by a little bit.
Let us know your hot takes, Firehouse Subs text line or AAA Heating and Air phone lines, 803-404-6100. We'll try and get some of those as we wrap up the hour. Coming up next, it is the Extra Points Tyler Head and Jack Beltry along with you on your Monday here on The Game. Welcome back in. It is the Extra Points Hour and Jack Beltry along with you, wrapping up hour number 1 here on your Monday on the Game. Talking hot takes, and we want some of yours on the Firehouse Subs text on 803-404-6100. David says, my hot take is that Carolina does make the college football playoff this year at 10-2. I'm going to tell you, if you go 10-2 with this schedule, assuming your losses are not to SC State and Coastal Carolina, even then, even if that happened, with the wins you would have against all the other teams, you'd be it. Like, there's no question about
it. Making it to the college football playoff with a loss to...
Listen, Notre Dame lost to NIU and was still a top 5 seed last year.
This is facts. Now, if South Carolina loses to SC State, then the Columbia might burn to the ground. Like, I think that we got bigger problems to worry about.
Sure.
Like, South Carolina won't be making the playoffs because they won't have 10 wins by that point in the year if they lose to SC State.
Right.
And
right.
Coastal's a little bit more.
Yeah.
Enough with the Coastal slander, I think. The Sun Belt is a good conference. You got good teams in there.
Sure.
Coastal's a good little program there.
Yeah, but either way, if you're going to go 10-2 against this schedule, regardless of those 2 losses are against LSU, Alabama, whatever, you'd have enough quality wins with how tough your schedule is. You'd be in. Now, I can't guarantee that's going to mean you're going to be in the SEC championship game, but you're going to be in there somewhere. And at the end of the day, that's all that matters, right? You're a program that you don't have to be the number 1 seed. If you get as the number 12 seed, that's fine. You're still in.
If they go 10-2, that is so impressive. I mean, I think I saw today you have like 6 AP top 25 opponents right now on your schedule. Like, the road games are really where you're going to have to do pretty well. I think you're going to have to – I think you really want to go undefeated at home, I think. But if you split your road games and you have like 2 losses in there, I think you are definitely getting in, no doubt. It's just, can you survive the road this year, but also get those wins at home that you need to make the playoff?
Tyler weighs in and says, hot take, Mazio Bennett and Nick Harbor both get 1,000 yards.
Ooh.
That would be a significant uptick in performance from a year ago.
So what is Lenore Sellers going to throw for? Like 5,000 yards? That's your Heisman Trophy winner right there.
Yeah, I mean, you'd be...
We're talking about like a Joe Burrow level campaign there. Because Joe had 2 1,500-yard receivers on his team in 2019.
And Joe was, he was good in 2018, but he was not like a superstar.
He hadn't scratched the surface of being that guy in 2019. The guy that no team wanted to face each week. Look, if South Carolina does that, that would be seriously incredible.
Yeah, no, that would be phenomenal. That would mean that this offense is clicking on all cylinders, I feel like, and hopefully that means you're somewhere in that realm of 10-2 and making your way into the college ball playoff, because here's the thing, you would hate to waste that level of high offensive performance on a team that doesn't make the playoff, right?
Yeah, that would be really, really frustrating for South Carolina.
By the way, if Nick Harbor has 1,000 yards, he's definitely like a first-round pick, right?
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Again, this all stems back to the hot take that we talked about in the last segment of, can this be the highest scoring offense in program history? I think if you have 2,000-yard receivers, we're definitely talking about that being the case.
Michael on the live stream says, I think the hottest take was Sellers and Doty combining for 600 yards of offense against SC State. Here's the thing. Should Doty play a lot against SC State? Because, again, I feel like that is more of a chance for you to get Cutter Woods and Aaron Noland some experience. Like, Doty's played plenty over the years. Like, yes, he's your emergency option, but I don't feel like, all right, maybe you give him a drive or two, but, like, I don't feel like I need to see a lot of him if you're beating SC State by, 30 or 40 points. Like, that's more for your young guys.
The other thing is, I think you want to figure out, what, like, you're not redshirting Aaron Noland. He's already redshirted. Do you redshirt Cutter Woods this season? I think that's something you might want to figure out here early on. I mean, there's a few games where I think he definitely could play, and maybe you play him in the SC State game and that'd be it. But
yeah, well, and ideally, much like Sellers, back in 2023, he played against Furman. He played against Kentucky,
Vanderbilt.
He played against Vanderbilt. That was 3 games, and again, you ended up, being able to redshirt him there. So again, when you look at how hard this schedule is, I don't think there's going to be more than 4 instances where Cutter Woods would need to play. So that feels like kind of a given to me. Now, again, if he ends up looking phenomenal, and again, God forbid something happens to Sellers where he's out for a couple weeks at the end of the season, then maybe you'd turn to him at that point. But I think it's pretty safe bet that Cutter Woods going to get a red shirt. Again, Aaron Nolan's already burned his, so feasibly you can use him a lot more if it came to that. But again, I look at SC State as a game that, again, no disrespect to the Bulldogs here, but if you beat them the way you're supposed to, and we're supposed to have garbage time where you can get a bunch of people in the second half, then that's your time to get a better idea of Aaron Nolan and Cutter Woods.
We should get to a point where we see Jimmy Francis in that game.
That'd be great.
Let's be real.
Yeah,
but
if you can get down to Jimmy Francis, that'd be phenomenal.
But I will say, you mentioned like Luke Doty and maybe get him in there for like a drive or two. I disagree. If he's your backup quarterback, you got to treat him as such. Get him in there for like a quarter, honestly. Maybe like Sellers is done after the first half. Get Doty in there. Get him that experience that he needs. Because, again, he has not played quarterback full-time since, 2022? Like, we're talking about a few years ago now.
He played
a little bit in 23.
A little bit in 23 against Furman before Sellers came in.
Yeah.
But that was the last time I believe he took a snap at quarterback, if I'm remembering correctly. Because last year was primarily receiver special teams.
Exactly. So, again, you want to get him – if he is your ultimate backup quarterback – you got to get him ramped up, I think, as much as possible in these moments where, hey, the score is in hand. Go ahead and try and play him.
Appreciate you guys weighing in with your hot takes on the Firehouse Subs text line. Coming up next in hour number 2, we'll take a look at TV ratings and how visible is South Carolina and what game is going to be the most viewed this upcoming season. Jalen Tart also joins us on the other side as the X Point rolls along here on your Monday on the Game. Tyler Head here for our friends over at Canty Foundation Specialist. I was driving around in Charleston on Saturday, and what do I see over in the area of Isle of Palms? None other than a sign for Canty Foundation Specialist. They are truly helping everybody all across the state, no matter where you're listening to us from. And for our new friends in Charleston, I will let you know that you always need to be on the lookout for things around your home that look a little bit odd. Things like cracks in your exterior brick, cracks in walls or above windows and door frames, doors or windows that might be sticking, uneven or bouncy floors, and cracks over your garage door. If you notice any of these problems, you could have serious foundation issues. That is where our friends at Canty Foundation Specialist come in. Go online to schedule an appointment today at cantycanfix.com. They'll send a pro out to your home to evaluate your foundation issues and get them fixed so you and your family can live without worry going forward. Again, go online to schedule an appointment today at cantycanfix.com for our friends at Canty Foundation Specialist. Welcome back in hour number 2. It is the Extra Point on your Monday here on the game. It's our head Jack Beltry, Jalen Tart now hopping in with us here for the next hour. Morning, Jalen. How we doing today?
Doing good. I don't know if you can hear me. I'm on a different mic because it's not working. But at the same time, I'm doing well.
Yeah, good.
Great weekend.
Sure.
A lot of football, NFL. I know Carolina fans are very excited. We got 13 more days. It will be here before you know it. Like, it's going to go by very quick. But Scotty Scheffler, everyone's been talking about Scotty Scheffler over the weekend. But
good weekend of golf.
Did you see that shot?
I did. 82 feet.
Dude, he is
unbelievable.
Absolutely incredible.
He's on a Tiger-esque type of run. Well, was that his, like, Tiger moment? We all remember the famous Nike ball that stood still for a second before rolling in. Like, was that kind of his moment like that in his career so far?
But it didn't come in a major.
It didn't come in a major, but still, like, that is a crazy shot to make.
And as far as best shots he's had in his career, that's probably right up there as number 1 right now. If it had come in a major, I think it's talked about a lot more.
Sure.
But still, I mean, 82 feet is 82
when
feet.
I saw the ball just go straight up and went straight down, I was like, all right, what is this thing about to do? And then it just kept rolling, and I was like there's no way he's making this.
Like, it felt like Tiger at 16 at the Masters in 05. It felt like that a little bit.
But it's at the same time, it's kind of one of those things, like, I'm not surprised by anything that he does anymore because he's been world number 1 for a while now. This is his second year winning 5 or more in a single year on the PGA Tour, which is something that hasn't been done since Tiger back in the mid-2000s. Like, he's cooking right now. And it's one of those things that, yes, does he have the same polarization as Tiger Woods? No, not necessarily, because he's not somebody that's changing the game in quite the way that Tiger Woods was. But I feel like we need to appreciate greatness while we're witnessing it, because you never know when you're going to see something like this again.
No, it's honestly incredible what we're seeing. And, like, this guy is the Tiger for the next generation here, I think. And, like, he's only one major win away. I think
he's not even 30 yet.
He needs to win, the PGA? Or the U.S. Open.
U.S. Open.
He needs to win
the other ones
to complete the career Grand Slam. And he's, like, literally
right there.
There.
He's going to get it, right?
He's going to get it at some point.
Yeah.
But it's like, hopefully this doesn't become like a Rory situation where you got to wait like 11 years for him to win that next major that he needs. Because, again, he's won all the other ones.
Sure.
But it's just now Scotty needs this last one, which is probably going to be toughest to get because it's like the pressure's on to get this thing.
Yeah. I don't know. He seems like somebody that doesn't really crack under pressure.
Nah, he's
been to jail, for God's sake.
Did you see him in Happy Gilmore, too?
I did.
One of the better parts of that movie.
Well, and the fact that he could, like, laugh at himself about the jail thing.
I appreciated that. Not again.
That was pretty good. By the way, Jalen, I didn't even check. What's the fit today?
Michael Jackson.
Okay. All right, cool.
I'm liking it.
So I know you're not typically in the hour here with me and Jalen, but he has a just endless supply of musician T-shirts that he gets from Plato's Closet that he routinely wears in here. So I always have to get the check of what we're rocking today.
Yes.
So what are the shoes you got on?
It's just regular Panda Dunks.
Okay.
For today.
I'm liking the fit, man.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Very cool. And that was Plato's Closet T-shirt too?
Yes.
Nice.
I'm telling you, man. Go to like TJ Maxx, like
Marshalls.
I'm telling you, they got the goods there, man, and for cheap too.
No, I learned about those places pretty well in college.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Good deals. Getting back to Gamecock football here again. 13 days away from kickoff. The unique thing about week number 1 for the Gamecocks is getting the opportunity to stand alone, right? And Beamer talks a lot about visibility, wanting this program to be seen. A week or so ago, they put out the tweet of, hey, we're the most featured team on the Any Given Saturday series on Netflix, which I thought was a bit silly. I don't think they needed to do that, but I get the point they're trying to make. As you're a program that's on the rise, right? Like, nobody thinks about South Carolina and that upper echelon of premier programs in college football. You'd love to get there, obviously, but the more times you can be featured and have people watching you and tuning in, paying attention to you, the better the reputation you can build and you have a very cool opportunity here in week number 1 to be unopposed. You and Virginia Tech will play for 3.5 hours without any competition in the middle of the day on a holiday weekend.
Yeah, exactly. Like, there's not going to be any NFL on, so that doesn't come till the next week. You have Notre Dame, Miami later that night, but it doesn't interfere with it's back-to-back. So you have a lot of opportunity to capitalize off of that. And I went back to last year to look at the standalone game on that Sunday, which was Southern Cal LSU. Granted, it was at night, and there was only one game. That game drew in almost 10 million viewers at 9.2 million. So I think South Carolina, and I know it's Virginia Tech, but, like, I think they have the opportunity to probably get close to that. I would say 8 million or higher probably.
I mean, this is a golden opportunity. I mean, you were saying in the offseason that you were the most viewed. I mean, now you got an opportunity to be even more viewed with games like this to kick off your season. Basically, I think with eyes on Carolina with this, opportunity right here, like, it could really propel them in a positive standpoint to perform well in the season. SC State is going to be a hand-me-down game. Basically, they're going to win that at home. Probably in the month of September, I should say, they could go undefeated.
Yeah,
they could at least have at least 2 ESPN games. The Vanderbilt game is going to be on TV, a 7 o'clock primetime game. I mean, that's a lot of eyes. They're a hot team right now after what they had last year. And then mostly the October portion of the season, majority of those games are going to be at least on ABC or ESPN. So you're going to get a lot of eyes. And I think, again, this is a golden opportunity. It's put up or shut up. Like I said last week, it's put up or shut up for Carolina. And go ahead.
No, finish thought.
I was going to say, it's put up or shut up because with you having all of these games, it is a golden opportunity to let the country know, like, yeah, South Carolina's here to stay. And that's what I had to say.
And again, you'll be unopposed in that week number 1. We don't really have a comparable metric. Like you said, the LSU Southern Cal last year, around 9 million viewers, which was the 24th most watched game of the entire year a season ago. But I don't recall ever having a mid-afternoon Sunday game in week number 1.
No.
We've been doing the Sunday night thing for a while now, but I don't ever remember one kicking off at noon or 3 like this one's going to. So kind of a chance to set a new bar for this.
And that's what I wonder about with the viewership. Again, people are sickos for college football. So you're going to have a lot of people tuned in regardless on that Sunday afternoon. Nothing else to really do. I think South Carolina will do fine from that standpoint, but it's just like how much viewership can you really gain on a Sunday afternoon? It's a lot easier, I think, at night, but Sunday afternoon might be a little bit of a different story.
Well, it's a holiday weekend. People are on lakes and grilling out and all that kind of stuff. So I don't think you're going to surpass whatever Miami, Notre Dame do later on that night, but I think you could easily pull in your best viewership of the entire year, and we'll get to what games we think might be the most viewed coming up here in just a moment. But college football is a volume sport, and one of my mentors that I worked in radio back in Athens always told me that, like, hey, the college football is the best when you have a lot of it to consume. And what we have in week number 1, starting on Thursday night, with teams like Auburn and Baylor playing each other all the way through Monday night with North Carolina and TCU, we as college football fans are trying to take it as much as possible. So people that may not be as inclined to watch South Carolina and Virginia Tech on a random Saturday in September are definitely going to want to see this because, again, it's their only option at that point in time.
Exactly. It's going to be the main event of the afternoon. Unless there's some big, golf going on or something, South Carolina will be in the spotlight. And that's about as much as you could want in that type of atmosphere in Atlanta. Sold out crowd, lots of people watching, and hopefully leads to them going out there and performing well.
And it's at 3 o'clock. I mean, that's a perfect time to have a game on. I mean, everyone's going to be home from church, eating their Sunday dinner, doing what they need to do. And I think that, again, that's a perfect opportunity for them to perform well under the big, bright lights and get a win on national television at that.
So what are the storylines of this game? Obviously, we have Carolina coming back or trying to defend a 9-win season from a year ago and obviously get themselves back in the college football playoff mix. But I think about the perception of somebody like Lenore Sellers, who's generated a lot of buzz this offseason, rightfully so. Again, look, asking him to win the Heisman Trophy is a tall task because there's only been one other former Gamecock that's done it, that being George Rogers, and you have a lot of worthy adversaries this upcoming year. But if you can get the season off to a strong start, and yeah, Virginia Tech is not the most daunting opponent, but they're still Power 4 nonetheless. So if you can go out there and put up a lot of yards on offense for Sellers, and he has a really strong game, like let's say, I don't know, he throws for 302 touchdowns, runs for another $120 and has an extra score, that's a great way to start off your Heisman Trophy campaign on national television, no less.
But the other a key component of this is the defense. They lost a lot of talent. Nicky Memori being the helm of it, Kyle Kennard. Are they going to be good with Dylan Stewart being the helm? I mean, I think they can. I think DQ Smith could be another person that could anchor this defense in the secondary with Memori gone. I think they're going to be really good. But I think a lot of the talk is, can they have continued momentum from what they did last year going into this season?
That's the main thing. I think you guys both hit the nail on the head with those 2 points there of storylines to watch. The other thing we'll probably see a lot in this game, it wouldn't shock me if it's probably one of the main things we see right away, is the Beamer dynamic with, it'd be one thing if this were in Blacksburg, but again, going up against Virginia Tech for the first time, he's Frank's son,
sure,
all this sort of stuff. And we saw it in the Netflix documentary, I think in one of the first few episodes where, in Blacksburg, he's known as Frank's son.
Yep.
But he wants to set his own legacy. And this is a season where you get to the college football playoff at South Carolina, and great year last year, but if you're able to take that next step and get to the playoff, that really sets in stone like Shane's his own guy, and he's no longer in the shadow of his father in a lot of respects.
And that's a good point to make that you make, Jack. I think for him, this could be, he can have his own lane now with a win like this to be, okay, he is the coach. He is Shane Beamer in his own lane. And then he could be a top contending coach in the SEC as the season goes along because, big wins like this, it does carry a lot of momentum as the season progresses.
How many, if I set the line right now of over-under shots of Frank Beamer during the game at 5.5, are you taking the over or the under?
So they're going to probably be in a suite. It depends. Like, is he going to be viewable? Like, is he invisible?
He has to be viewable if it's Virginia.
I'll say this. You definitely will get if South Carolina wins this game, you will definitely get a shot because I think Frank always goes onto the field.
Yeah, he'll be on the field somewhere.
I'll take the under, but I think you're definitely going to see like probably 3 or 4 shots of him probably.
It will be. I'll take the over.
Okay.
He might be in the booth. Talking sports during the third quarter.
Wouldn't be the craziest thing.
They might bring him in for a moment or two for a drive or something like that. Wouldn't be outside the realm of possibility. I mean, I'd probably flirt with the over just as a point to hit continually throughout the game. Because, again, this is the Beamer Bowl at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of showing him on TV, do we count the flashbacks to when he was at Virginia Tech?
No, I'm like
live shots of him.
Cuts to him. You have a lower third that says Frank Beamer, legendary Virginia Tech coach, Shane Beamer's dad, that kind of thing.
Again, 5's a lot. I could see it potentially.
Yeah, I just think it's such an interesting plot point in this game that I thought it was funny when Beamer said at the press conference the other day, like, I'll be glad when this is over.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure, unlike any other game to start the season, this one has got so much more interest from people that he knows, stuff like that. Hey, playing Virginia Tech, that's so cool. Like, he's probably sick of hearing about it at this point. He just wants to be over and done with.
And this one was scheduled before he even got to South Carolina. It's just a random coincidence.
It is a coincidence, which there's no coincidences, whether you believe them or not. But, it's funny how this ended up working out.
I want to know how much of his family is going to be there.
Probably all of them.
Like, how, yeah.
Like, definitely... Like, I would imagine Frank's going to be there.
Oh, he's got to.
He has to be there.
I think. Yeah. I believe the debate was what's he going to wear, right?
I think you wear South Carolina stuff.
Yeah.
I think you have to go just completely neutral. I don't think you wear anything on either side.
A Virginia Tech cap and a South Carolina polo.
You're still revered in black. He still lives in Blacksburg. But again, you want to support your son. I think you just go neutral. Just go with the black pullover. Or something like that.
None of these split jerseys down the middle.
I don't think Frank's going to do that.
No.
So we'll see. We'll talk about what games we think South Carolina might be the most viewed for the Gamecocks this upcoming year as the Extra Point rolls along. Tyler Head, Jack Belcher, Jalen Tart with you on your Monday here on The Game.
Everyone knows that AAA Heating and Air has the best HVAC replacement options in the Midlands with their guaranteed financing, no payments or interest for 12 months, and a 15-year parts and labor warranty. They're hard to beat when you need a new system, but did you know they also have great deals for repairs? That's right. If your system is broken and you're strapped for cash, AAA Heating and Air can still help. They'll get your repairs done with payment options for up to 12 months and no credit check required. So if you're the homeowner, all you need is a valid bank account. That's it. That's all you need. So don't wait. Call AAA Heating and Air today and get your comfort back on track. AAA Heating and Air. Comfort you can trust.
Welcome back in. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head, Jack Belcher, Jalen Tart hanging out with you on your Monday here on The Game. Reminder coming up at the top of the 11 o'clock hour, the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Will be joined in studio by former Gamecock Debo Williams hanging out with us for about 30 minutes. Looking forward to that, hearing about his time here at South Carolina and getting some more insight into what he expects out of the 2025 team. So we're talking about TV ratings, and as I mentioned earlier, you get week number 1 standing alone, where it has an opportunity to maybe be South Carolina's most viewed game of the entire season. Last year, there were 100 games ranked on the most watched for South Carolina in 2024 by Football Scoop. Do you guys want to take a guess at what the top 4 most viewed games for South Carolina were in 2024?
Well, I think you have to start with the LSU game.
Yeah.
I feel like that would probably be a pretty easy one if I had to take a guess there.
Okay, that's 1.
Alabama,
Okay, 2.
A&M,
All right.
Illinois.
Okay, you actually nailed all 4.
Wow.
Now, can you tell me what order those are in terms of total viewership?
Go for it.
LSU, A&M. No. Yes, LSU, A&M, Alabama, and Illinois.
Jack, you want to take a crack at it?
Let's see. I'm going to go. God, that Illinois game, man. LSU probably number 1 on there. So A&M, Illinois, LSU, and then what was the other one? Alabama. I would say Alabama's probably number 2. I'm going to go A&M 3 and then Illinois 4.
Alabama was actually number 1.
Wow. Okay.
6 million, which was the 45th most watched game of the entire year. A&M was number 2 at 5.5 million. It was number 50 most viewed game of the year. LSU was actually number 57 at 4.9.
Wow.
And then the Citrus Bowl was 67 at 4.3. Now, again, when you're talking about all those games having competition going head-to-head, the Citrus Bowl is being played right about the same time as the Outback Bowl with Alabama and Michigan, so that takes away some eyes. Obviously, when you have a noon game against LSU, I can't remember what Big Noon Saturday was that weekend, but I'm sure Ohio State was playing somebody that probably took some eyes away from it. But, yeah, the Alabama game, which was also a noon kick, ended up being the most viewed game of the entire year.
Not a complete surprise, to be honest. I mean, that
was a crazy game.
Yeah, all those games right there, man. Those were those are some wild games for sure.
So you have the opportunity for, again, week number 1 against Virginia Tech to probably maybe be your biggest audience because of the fact that it stands alone. But I think it's certainly up for debate of all the other games on your schedule this year, which one might be one of those other most viewed games.
Alabama. That's a homecoming game. So the whole state country will be looking at that. Can Carolina beat Alabama at home? And that's been a tall task for years. That's something that Carolina fans been wanting for years. The LSU get back at LSU will be interesting. I personally think the whole month of October will be a gauntlet for Carolina if they want to get to the playoff. And I think with those slated games, Clemson will be good. I think Clemson will be an interesting game that would be mostly viewed to high-powered, teams with Heisman Trophy type players on either side of the teams. That is a marquee matchup. 4.
I'll go ahead and interject real quick.
Go ahead.
I do think, in terms of most viewed game this season, I'd be shocked if it weren't South Carolina at LSU. If those two teams are 5-0 by that point, or I guess maybe I don't know what LSU. I don't know if LSU has a bye week earlier or not. But let's just say both teams are undefeated going into that week. That's gonna be College game day. It's gonna be under the lights. That probably would be South Carolina's most viewed game, I would imagine. But he's right. Alabama, though, that should be right up there as well as one of the more viewed games for the Gamecocks.
So LSU does have a bye before that. Remember, they start the season at Clemson, so there's a very good chance they could have at least one loss. Also, they actually have a pretty tough slate to start the year. They got Florida and Ole Miss in those first 5 games, so there's a chance they could have 2 losses. But regardless, a game on Saturday night, assuming it's a night game in Death Valley, is always going to draw a lot of viewers, especially if Carolina comes in there cooking at 5-0 or 4-1, and still ranked somewhere around the top 15. I think you get a lot of eyes on that one. You'd want to think that Carolina-Clemson, if it ends up being as important of a matchup as it was a year ago, that'd get a lot of viewers, but you're always going up against Michigan and Ohio State, and you're unfortunately going to lose that battle 9 times out of 10 because of just how massive that game is, and that's obviously the biggest one pretty much every single year for Fox.
And again, South Carolina would benefit so much from having that game be a Black Friday one.
Which Carolina wants to do.
Are we wrong?
No.
I want to know what the viewership was on that Georgia Tech game.
That's
year.
actually a good question.
Because
that was a good game too.
And again, that was the 7:30 ABC slot. South Carolina the day after Thanksgiving would do numbers, I think, especially if it's up against Clemson, because you're not going up against as tough a competition. Who you facing, like UCF, USF, or I don't even think they play anymore because they're in different conferences now. But like those are like the types of games you'll get on a Friday. Texas, maybe
Alabama, Auburn,
Georgia Tech was the 25th most viewed game of the entire season last year, 8.47. It was only one spot behind LSU and Southern Cal in week number 1. So yeah, you have the opportunity to be one of the most viewed games of the entire season and again, volume sport. Black Friday, people are inclined to watching college football, and yeah, if you could be the nightcap there, that'd be huge. Or just really any of those games on that Friday, right? Because you have the noon. The Egg Bowl's at noon this year.
Yeah.
Georgia Tech's at 3:30, and then Texas A&M is the nightcap this year, which is going to do crazy numbers. So any of those games on Black Friday, just because you're not facing as much competition from the rest of rivalry Saturday, like you have with Carolina and Clemson going up against Michigan and Ohio State a lot the past couple of years.
A&M and Texas were not a Friday game last year, right?
No, it was Saturday. Saturday.
I do wonder how the vieurship would look. And Georgia Tech is at the Mercedes-Benz
this year.
Which how do you feel about that?
It's a Tech home game, and they have a agreement with Mercedes-Benz to have at least one home game a year be at Mercedes-Benz, so that's what they're choosing this year. As long as they don't take any of the games away from Athens, which they won't. I don't really care. I think it's funny because I think there's going to be more Georgia fans there than Tech fans because you have an opportunity to sell tickets more of an open market. But yeah, it's just it is what it is.
I think, would you be surprised if Georgia Tech would be a top 25 by that time?
I wouldn't be shocked by it. They were really strong a year ago, beat Miami, darn near should have beat Georgia. I think Brent Key's the right coach there, and he's got him on the right track. But that game will be at 3:30 on Black Friday. By the way, A&M and Texas, 20th most viewed game, 9.45 million for that night game on that Saturday night.
Man, that's always a good game right there. And I'm glad that one's not on Saturday this year because, again, we talk about college game day and it's South Carolina Clemson. That could open up a door right there if Ohio State and Michigan's not as enticing.
Man, you want to talk about game day leading into the Palmetto Bowl?
Dude, I'm telling you.
That would be intense.
Cook it up. Let's cook it off.
Well, one thing that made last year's game so special was the fact that there were playoff implications on the line where the loser, at least at the time, felt like their hopes of making the playoffs had been dashed. Well, if the Big Ten gets its way, that would mean absolutely nothing in the future. We'll talk about the Big Ten's radical playoff idea coming up next. It is the Extra Point. It's our head, Jack Veltri, Jalen Tart, along with you on your Monday here on The Game. Welcome back in. It is the Extra Points Hour ahead. Jack Belcher, Jalen Tart with you on your Monday here on The Game. It is time for Who Sprung a Leak, brought to you by our friends over at American Leak Detection. It's not really springing much of a leak when you have a multi-week win streak come to an end, but nevertheless, the Brewers did eventually have to lose, which they did yesterday. It took dramatic fashion as they lost in extra innings to the Reds, 3-2, 14-game win streak.
If they're
coming
not
to
the
an end.
hottest team in baseball right now, I don't know what you're watching. They're really, really, really good right now.
This is a team that is 78-45 right now in the NL Central, and they're 8 games up in the Cubs, who the Cubs, for a while there, I was thinking, like, oh, they're going to win this division this year. The Cubs are back. Baseball's better when the Cubbies are good, man. But the Brewers, they're a team that's like, obviously last year lost in heartbreaking fashion in the wild card round to Pete Alonso and the Mets. And, they're really good right now. But I worry about the Brewers. Are they peaking at the wrong time? Because they get to October, and this feels very much like 2018 where they host the first 2 rounds of the playoffs, the division series. They had Game 7 of the NLCS. They lose to the Dodgers. And I feel like that's kind of the similar thing here where the Brewers just don't really do too much in the playoffs.
But do you think they can contend with the Phillies and the Dodgers into
I honestly, man, I think the NL is a bit overrated. I really do. I think I think the Dodgers are getting better. They just swept the Padres. I think the Padres are really good in that league, but also the Phillies, I don't know. I mean, they just lost Zach Wheeler, so that's
that's a big
We'll
loss
see.
for them.
But again, Brewers' win streak comes to an end at 14 games. They fall to the Reds yesterday. Crazy weekend, by the way, for that entire series with the comebacks and stuff in games number 1 and 2 on Friday and Saturday. Speaking of crazy, the Big Ten has thrown out a radically different idea of the college football playoff. Again, we still don't know where the debate stands between 14 and 16. We've talked a lot this offseason. I really thought the debate of formats was over with since the season was almost here. But nevertheless, the Big Ten has gone radically different by throwing out an idea of 24 or 28 teams. I'm going to throw a lot of numbers at you here, which would be a 7-7, 5-5, 2-2 model, where you'd have 7 teams from the SEC, 7 teams from the Big Ten, 5 teams from the ACC, 5 teams from the Big 12, 2 of the best G6 conference champions, and 2 at-large is obviously one of those would go to Notre Dame if they're over like basically 7-5 probably. And all those would be basically automatic berths into this expanded college football playoff field.
And you get an invite, and you get an invite, and you get an invite. Like, come on. We got to draw the line somewhere. 24 and 28 teams. All right, so I think the comparable here is the FCS has that many teams in there.
They do.
So it can work from that standpoint. The FCS also plays 1 week less.
They do.
So that helps a bit for their case. I just think this is too much because, like, where do you draw the line in terms of when does the season end? With the portal and all that. There's a lot to think about here.
One thing that this idea would encompass would be eliminating conference championships.
I did see that.
At that point, what would be the point? Because you're if you're in the Big Ten and the SEC, your top 7 teams are getting in. There is 0 point to playing a conference championship, but here's the thing, and again, this is just an idea that's been thrown out there by the Big Ten that hasn't been agreed upon by anybody and really hasn't been discussed that much by the other conferences. This is them wanting, I feel like, to try and rope the SEC in because the SEC did not want to go for the 4+4 and all those models that we talked about earlier because they believed a 5 and 11 model would allow the SEC more opportunities to get more teams in. Well, now you're saying, okay, if we allow you 7 teams guaranteed, you still have 2 open spots for at-larges where theoretically you could get an 8 and 9 team in if Notre Dame's not good enough, that is. I feel like they're trying to, because again, the SEC and the Big Ten have the control here. If they agree on something, that's what's going to happen. That's what the other conferences agreed to. I feel like this is the Big Ten's way of trying to give the SEC something that will appease them to guarantee more teams in, so they'll go for it, and then we can get this thing rolling.
That's a good point. But for me, 24 versus 12, I mean, it's already entertaining enough with 12 for right now. So for you to add 24, that's literally almost a good portion of the top 25 rankings. I mean, I don't know. The biggest thing for me, like what Jack said, is shortening the season. I mean, what big of an interest would that be for fans if that was to happen? To have a 2014 playoff, would they not like that? I mean, I don't think if I'm a fan watching this, I wouldn't want it.
Well, it killed the value of the regular season.
The charm of college football as it is. See, this is where I think college football has the NFL beat in terms of, yes, every game matters in the NFL in 17 or 18 games, but like with college football, you live and die with every single week because like even in years past, it's like you lose a game or two, you're like, you're kind of screwed here. You can afford to drop a game now, but every week is so intense. And there's so much parity in college football now to where it's like you just don't we think we know who the top teams are, but there can always be those surprise teams that get in.
And that's the thing for me, because in the BCS era, where you had two teams that played for the championship, you had to be basically perfect, right? There were certain situations where you could have one loss. It better be to a really good team, and it better be early in the season where you can make up for that. In the 14 playoff era, you had to be almost perfect and obviously be a conference champion more often than not to get in. The 12-team playoff has opened that up a little bit more to where, again, you can be a 2, maybe 3-loss team and still get your way in depending on when those losses happen. So we've already expanded it out a little bit, but I still felt like, for the most part, the regular season mattered a lot last year. But with this, and I went through and looked, if we had a 28-team playoff last year, and these are based off of playoff rankings before conference championships, because theoretically you wouldn't have had conference championship weekend, here are the teams that would have made it in by each conference. The ACC would have had SMU, Clemson, Miami, Syracuse, and Louisville. Louisville would have been the worst of those teams at 8-4 in the ACC. The Big 12 would have had Arizona State, Iowa State, BYU, Colorado, and Baylor. Again, Baylor also an 8-4 team at the bottom there. The Big 10, Oregon, Indiana, again, 7 spots here. Penn State, Ohio State, Illinois, Iowa, and Michigan would have all made it in, with Michigan being the worst of those. And then the SEC would have had Georgia, Texas, Tennessee, Alabama, LSU, South Carolina, and Texas A&M all making it in the college football playoff a year ago. And again, the worst record for every Power 4 conference would have been 8-4. You would have had Notre Dame in at 11-1, Boise State in at 11-1, Army and UNLV would have taken up the other 2 at-large spots.
I just kind of scoff at this because I'm like, wasn't one of the issues with the playoff expansion last year was that the games were just not very competitive in the first round?
Yes.
You had a lot of lopsided matchups. I think we see a lot more of that if we expand to 24 or 28 teams. You get a lot of teams in that are undeserving, right? You're trying to get the best teams in, and we're wasting time at this point with maybe you get an upset or two with an 8-4 team beating a 10-2 team, but you're kind of wasting time with having so many teams in that are just, quite frankly, not playoff teams in a lot of respects.
And then the first and second rounds are going to be at host sites. So you got to think about travel for those schools, to get there at a certain amount of time. They may have some issues. Why mess with something if it's not worth messing with? Like, I like the 12 team. I think the 28 is cool. It's giving more teams an opportunity to get in. But for me, the excitement is the top 12 is the top 12. If you're not in the top 12, you're not in the top 12.
But it's all about money.
Well, it is.
That too.
That's the only reason.
One thing that I commonly hear is nobody hates college football more than the people that run college football because, again, they don't care what fans think. They don't care about the value of the regular season. This chance to make more money because theoretically you're having, an extra 5, 8, 10, however many more playoff games you would have, which are going to be a lot more viewed because, again, we'd complain about it, but we'd watch it, right? Because we love college football. And if you're telling me there's 10 or 8 games on the course of those, Friday and Saturday to open up the playoff, we're going to watch it. And we're going to watch every single round to see who's going to end up being the champion and watch the regular season, because of it as well. And they know that.
So scheduling-wise, you would only have one non-conference game and the rest of your games are conference?
Well, that's the thing is you already have TV contracts that guarantee a certain amount of regular season games. You can't cut back on that now. The only thing you're cutting would be conference championships. So you're playing 12 games. Then you're theoretically, if you have to work your way all the way through being a low seed, I think you could get up to 16 or 17 games at that point in time.
That's a lot.
Like, this would be crazy to think about.
Yeah.
And moving from 12 to 16 is not as big of a jump, but
Sure.
you double it to 24 or heck, even 28 teams. That's crazy. And we're talking about, do you start the season earlier? Do you start, or when do you finish? There's so many logistical things you have to think about here. The portal's a whole nother thing to think about here, but it's a really complicated thing. And I understand the Big Ten wanting to get more teams in, but I don't see this happening. This is crazy.
I don't either. Again, it's a radical idea thrown out there by the Big Ten, and we'll see how the other conferences react to it when they do meet about that here coming up soon. We'll get some of your thoughts on this on the Firehouse Subs text line, 803-404-6100. As we wrap up hour number 2, it is the Extra Point. Tyler Head, Jack Beltree, Jalen Tart with you on your Monday on the Game. Welcome back in. It is the Extra Point. It's our head Jack Veltri, Jalen Tart wrapping up the hour here on your Monday on the Game. Again, a reminder coming up to start the 11 o'clock hour for the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Former Gamecock Debo Williams going to be hanging out with myself, Wes, and Chris for about 30 minutes. We'll get his thoughts on this year's 2025 Gamecock team, as well as probably tell plenty of stories of what's happened in his career here for South Carolina. We were talking in the last segment there about the Big Ten's radical 24 or 28 team. Regardless, it's way too many team playoff idea. Some of you weighed in on the Firehouse Subs text line. Rick says, I think would be watering down the postseason. Let's just give everybody a trophy. That's the thing to me, is this doesn't also change who's winning the national championship. I've said the same thing with 4 teams, with 12 teams, 16 teams. Like, you're not suddenly going to get this rash of random champions. I feel like it's still going to be the same group of 5 to 6 teams on a rotation probably winning your national championship going forward. Same thing with 24 teams. Like, you're not going to tell me that UNLV or Army's suddenly going to go on some kind of crazy run and win the whole thing. This isn't basketball. The margins between the good teams and the middle-of-the-road teams in college football are way greater than when you have, elite teams versus mid-majors in basketball.
You may get a few like an upset or two here and there.
You get upsets, sure.
But in terms of deep runs, no, I don't think that is going to be on the table at all. And again, teams like the Ohio States that spend $20 million on their roster are making it runs to national championships. Like,
sure.
We're seeing the teams that spend the most money typically are the ones that have the most success. But again, you will see an upset here and there. I think it's just natural.
The more you expand this out, the harder it is for those smaller teams to win the entire thing anyway, right? Like, let's go back to the BCS era where you had 2 teams. All you had to do was be ranked 1 or 2, and you got to play a 1-game national championship. And again, Boise State was always that team that was kind of floating around there, never got that opportunity. But let's say they're theoretically 1 year, they got a chance to play in the national championship. They had 1 game to pull off an upset, like they did against Oklahoma in the Fiesta Bowl and all that kind of stuff. 1 game for them to beat a team that was probably better than them and win the whole thing. You expand out to 4 teams in the playoff. Cincinnati made it in. Yeah, they played Alabama, but all they had to do was get through 2 games, which is harder, but it's still only 2. Now you're talking about getting through 3 and 4 with a 12-team playoff, and at that point, you'd be talking about 4, maybe even 5, depending on how the brackets look. Which, again, for those smaller teams, yeah, maybe 1 upset is fine, but you're not going to go on this crazy run. That's just not how football works, especially in college football for teams like that.
No, and I think, having more teams will be good, but I think from what we saw last year in the 12-team playoff, I mean, the top, Ohio State beat Tennessee, which that was an 8-9, that was 42-17, and then we didn't really see a whole lot of upsets until the second week. So I think the building of that would be interesting, but I don't know. I think it would just be too many games at that point. But again, we're probably not going to see a whole lot of competition within the first 2 weeks of the playoff if that happens.
If there were, again, the NCAA college football would be banking on the fact that you do this, and again, it's all about money. But they're banking on the fact that, look, these games are going to be competitive, and it's going to back up. Hey, we told you so. This is why we're doing the 24 teams. But if it's, again, we thought 12 teams is bad with the lack of competition in that first round for home games. And the home games are cool. Mm-hmm. But when you see, it's 42-17, Ohio State's rolling. You got Indiana doesn't look like a real threat. Again, this was always going to be the con with adding more teams in that you just the playing field is not the same as it is with a 4-team playoff.
Mm-hmm. And what you do with this is you diminish the regular season, right? Like, again, let's think about what was on the line for Carolina and Clemson last year, where both teams went into that game with 2 losses, and it was a theoretical playoff eliminator. Now, yeah, Clemson got helped out because Syracuse beat Miami and allowed Clemson in the ACC championship game, but we thought going into that game, loser of this does not have a chance at the playoff. And if Carolina loses, they certainly would have had a chance, right? They would have had 4 losses at that point in time, and they wouldn't have had any shot to get in. You at least had an opportunity after that game to still have a chance to get in. But if this game happens in a 24-28 team field, you're just playing for seeding. Right?
You can rest your starters.
You can rest your starters, which you don't want.
No, that is, again, if you're basically in the playoff already with 9 wins, you can rest your starters for a rivalry. Can you imagine, Like Lenore Sellers, Cade Klubnik. Oh yeah, we're not going to play. We're not going to play because we're resting our starters. Like,
Sure. Yeah,
that would be awful.
If you know you have a guaranteed playoff game the next week or 2 weeks from now, and again, you're not really. Again, we see in the NFL, the Colts famously had a chance to go undefeated back in 2010 or 2009, excuse me,
Please don't
and they
remind
sat
me
their
of
starters. Last year, the Chiefs were playing for nothing in Week 17, rested their starter. Week 18, rested their starters. Like again, it would probably follow the same mold, which we don't want in college football.
No, it's not a good look for the sport if that's what this all becomes.
Because I know, Jack, you said earlier each game matters.
It does.
For you to rest your starters on a game that matters, on implications that could play either in your hands or your destiny is not being controlled, that's terrible.
You lose that luster.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't see it happening, and let's cross our fingers it doesn't. So that'll do it for the Extra Point. Coming up next, Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs. Debo Williams in studio with myself, Wes and Chris, on your Monday on the game. 11 o'clock on your Monday morning. Welcome in. It is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler, Wes, and Chris. Full house today, guys. We are joined by former Gamecock Debo Williams hanging out with us for about the first 30 minutes of the show. Debo, appreciate you hanging out. How we doing today, man?
Man, I appreciate you having me. Doing good. I can't complain, man. Bless.
You brought the whole crew with you today, didn't you?
I got them with me. I got my team with me.
Very cool.
Yeah, I was going to say, man, I wanted to hit on that first. These are your guys from back home. You've grown up together. Do you want to tell everybody listening about your team a little bit as well over here?
Yeah, so we grew up Smyrna, Delaware. I got my guy right here, cameraman Sean, Nate Sean Sylvester, Isaiah Cradle, that's my artist right here. Then I got my editor, Jordan Nang, right out of Smyrna, Delaware.
Awesome, man, and glad to have you guys in. I know, Debo, we had you in the studio, I got to say, it was a year or two ago at some point. Maybe longer.
I think you guys recorded down the hall, if I remember correctly.
We sure did.
I don't think he was live in here. I think y'all pre-recorded something.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I remember seeing him in the hallway.
I
But
thought
he
we
wasn't
had him in
studio.
here at some point. Maybe not.
Yeah.
Garnet Trust interview back in the day. And, Debo, let's just start a little bit with your career at South Carolina. And, being certainly, I would think you would say, part of a turnaround for the team last year and just maybe helping build a foundation for what they hope to be moving forward. If you could take away one thing from your career at South Carolina, is there anything that kind of stands out to you, man?
For one, I just want to shout out to Coach Beamer just being able to take a chance on me. From me being at the University of Delaware for a couple of months that I was there, and for him to take a chance on a FCS kid, and for me to be able to have the career that I did, it started with him believing in me. I want to say thank you for that. And then just having the best fans out here, man. Like, I still come back to South Carolina every once in a while since I've been going, and it's the best fans. They show love to me like I'm still here, like I'm still playing for the team, So it's been the best that I could ask for at a college aspect.
We were talking about some things earlier, Debo, before we came on, like just life stuff, not football stuff. And, I mean, kind of piggybacking off of Wes's question there, like when you came in, you're a young man, maybe, I don't know if you still consider it, like when I went to college, I was still a kid very much, And so what's your kind of thoughts looking back on your time here, just as far as how you grew? Like, obviously you grew as a football player. Yep. We all saw that. But just your personal growth and development too.
Yeah, it was the best decision I could have made. I got here, I had just turned 19 and left at the age of 23. So I was here for 4 years, and I needed to get away. Me being in Delaware, I couldn't grow as much as I did being here. So it was the best decision I could have made. I learned I did go from a boy to a man being here. I learned so much just being on my own, having to learn to pay my own bills. Like, just being able to, I got to do everything on my own now, got to get my own groceries. I got to do everything. So I really learned how to be a man while being here, for sure.
Let's go back to your time at the University of Delaware, which was brief, and, of course, 2020 when the COVID season happened and that season was postponed. What was the process of going through that, and ultimately what got you here to South Carolina, to where I think people often kind of forget you were even at Delaware because you've been here for so long?
Yeah, so I never got a chance to play at the University of Delaware, and I will always appreciate them grabbing me out of high school. And I had a running back that was here. His name is Marshawn Lloyd. He's a 5-star coming out of high school, running back. Ended up transferring to the University of Southern California, but me and him are from Delaware. He went to DeMatha High School, and he came straight here from high school. He came straight to South Carolina from high school, and I was at Delaware, and what COVID happened, and our season got canceled, FCS schools. They were still playing. This is when Coach Muschamp was here. So I never got to play under Coach Muschamp, but Coach Beamer had just got the job, and he goes up to Marshawn. It's kind of like, you know any linebackers? And Marshawn's like, I may got somebody for you. And I was already thinking about, like, I knew I wanted to be at a Power 5 school at the time. It's Power 4 now, but at the time it was Power 5. And so he, I'm talking with him, but at the end of the day, I can't do anything because I'm at another school. So he was like, man, if you ever feel as though you want to go into the portal, we may have something we can work on, So I took a leap of faith, and I took his word, and I went to the portal, and I didn't hear anything at first, so it was kind of scary because they could have took their offer away or anything they thought, and I would have been out of luck. And so me taking that leap of faith, a couple of days later, I hear from South Carolina, and it was all she wrote after that. I think they hit me up January 2nd, 2021. I was moved in January 7th.
Wow.
And the rest is history, they say. Debo, I remember when you first got here, man, and so Chris and I are trying to, get reports on hey, who looks the part out there, who's been doing well in strength and conditioning. And I remember the thing about Debo, they're like, man, this guy's a heat-seeking missile out there. Like, he hits anything that moves. And, you know, I know early in your career here, you were playing, but you weren't quite starting yet. And then I think there was maybe a point where it seemed like you were able to take the physicality, everything else about your game, and then it all kind of started to click together. Do you remember kind of vividly when it all kind of started to click for you, and you kind of went from being a guy who's on the field to being a guy who's like a true starter and making plays in the middle of this defense?
So my freshman year, I was a lot of special teams. I came in my first game, I had blocked 2 punts, broke a record. And from there, I'm like, okay, I might could do this, you know, because it was my whole offseason coming. I'm like, it's SEC, can I do it? I'm in my head, you know. So that confidence came when that first game came, and I was able to make a way through special teams. And then throughout the season, I wasn't playing as much as I wanted to. I was still on kickoff and special teams and things like that. But I come back from my sophomore year, and Coach White will tell you, too, like, out of all his backers in the past 4 years, he probably was toughest on me. And that was because physically I was there, but mentally I needed to improve because I thought I knew everything. And I didn't know anything. And so he'd tell you he had to get on me a lot. And so coming into my sophomore year, we still had 2 senior linebackers. I'm just a sophomore. We had Sherrod Green and Brad Johnson. So I come in competing with them. We also had Mo Cobbler, too. So that was the rotation, the 4-man rotation. And so I'm going back and forth with them, competing every single day, but I'm just improving. And so mentally, I started learning everything with the offenses we're doing. I knew the exact playbook for the defense, so I was able to put it together in that aspect.
So Clayton White, obviously the defense coordinator, but you're in his room as well as the linebackers coach. And Clayton White might be one of the most genuine seeming guys that South Carolina's ever had, I feel like, as a coach here. What can you tell us about, you know, A, what you learned from him and with him, but B, just what it was like to be around him on like a day-to-day basis?
So I tell you what, just from any coaching staff under Coach Beamer, you're going to get what you put in. So if you out there and you doing your thing on special teams, eventually, especially this for all my young guys coming in, you're going to get a chance. You start making plays out there in practice, you're going to get a chance. So I would definitely say they stick to their word. Like, if you are coming in and you practicing hard every day, you in the film room, you answering your questions, you getting stuff right, you doing what you're supposed to be doing every single day, they are going to give you the opportunities. When you get in that game, though, you got to make the most of those opportunities. So I will say, being at the University of South Carolina, you will get your opportunity. It's on you what you do with that opportunity. But being with Coach White every single day, though, he's going to bring the best out of you. Like, he definitely got the best out of me. He knows his players, and he's going to be able to drive you. You know, he's going to know what buttons to push, what time to push them to get the best out of you.
Let's go back to that first game that you mentioned. So 2021, it's the Eastern Illinois game.
Yes, sir.
Beamer's first game. And you mentioned breaking a record, and that record was first SEC player to block 2 punts in a game since Chris Rainey in 2010. And then Carolina had actually not blocked a punt at all since 2014. So helping make some history there. You know, you mentioned that you were on special teams primarily in year one. Like, what did you think of that coming in? Like, were you a guy, because Beamer mentioned the other day, hey, a lot of times we get guys in high school and they're used to being the guy.
Yeah.
You know, maybe they play offense and defense, maybe they star on one side of the ball, but they're probably not dreaming when they're growing up of, I'm going to go to a Power 4 school and go block punts or be the gunner or be the left guard. You know what I mean? Yep. So, like, what was your attitude towards that, and did it shift at all, like, as you went along?
So those guys coming out of high school, especially if you're going to an SEC school, you're a 4-star, 5-star, so they definitely not thinking about special teams. I would say I came in a lot more humble because I was just grateful to get the opportunity, and I was willing to do whatever I had to do to get on that field. And so me being on special teams, I was like, this is my way in, you know? So I'm going out there and I'm doing whatever I can. I'm like, Coach, you can put me on all 4. You put me on kickoff return, you put me on punt pressure, and you keep me on punt, whatever. So I knew that was my gateway in. So I had to make plays. I couldn't just be out there and not be a factor because they might take me out. But if I'm making plays, I know they're going to keep me on the field.
So let's go back. Obviously, Joe D is here now, but you had Pete Limbo for a while, and Shane Beamer obviously heavily involved too.
Yeah, Beamer ball, baby.
Yeah, I love asking people, like, you know, Pete Limbo's very much got like the high school social studies teacher kind of vibe or whatever, the history buff. Like, what was it like when you first got to work with him? Were you like, man, this is a little different? Or, like, what were your thoughts on Limbo?
Man, I love Coach Limbo because he's going to be the same person with everybody. A lot of guys, if they not used to being coached, they can't handle Coach Limbo because he's going to coach everybody the same. He's going to expect the most out of you, you know? So, and some people can't handle that, but I could. Like, I knew he was coaching me to be better. And so I seen him get on Spencer Rattler one time, like, because he was the same with everybody. Like, so that's what I love about Coach Limbo. And then whatever, if you putting in that work and putting in that time, he's going to show the respect back because that means you're showing respect to him because you're getting the extra hours in with him, you're meeting with him. Like, you literally, at the University of South Carolina, you get what you put in.
What's the most obscure history fact or random piece of information you learned from Coach Limbo?
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, on the spot.
I don't even know if I can answer that on top of my head, but he's showed us maps. I want to say my freshman year at camp, he showed us a map every single day at our team meetings. He showed us some type of map and gave us quizzes on them. Like, it was insane.
He's probably breaking the record in number of maps shown by staff. Was any coach, were any other coaches showing y'all maps? Or
I think Coach Beamer started doing it just because Limbo was doing it, but Limbo was different. But he's a beast. That's why he's doing this thing as a head coach right now. So
yeah, he's doing great.
He's doing
there.
a great job up in Buffalo. Won the Bahamas Bowl last year.
Yep.
Yeah, no, he's been great. Debo, some young guys are going to have to take over this year at linebacker in particular. What can you tell us? And I know there's been a couple of transfers as well, but particularly the guys that you have played with and now are going to be asked to step up. And, you know, the guy I'm always intrigued by is J.R. Johnson as well. Just looks like a freak athlete. What do you think maybe would be the next step for him this year?
Yeah, so just his next step, because he's the most athletically gifted linebacker I've ever seen. Like, just to have the size and the way he can move. So I know he's going to be good from that standpoint. But just him knowing what's coming from an offense, a game plan, just be able to put people in the right position. So if a D-line is out of position, be able to put them in the right position so they can make a play or you can make a play. Like, have everybody on board for one, and then for two, know what's coming from the offense. And then that's when the TFLs will come, the interceptions, because he's playing his game now. He doesn't have to worry about little things. Maybe you had to worry about as a freshman because you don't want to mess up. Now he can play his game.
So we've heard a lot about JR from his time on campus so far. Got to see him a little bit on the field last year. What is special about him? What really stands out, and what can we hope to see out of him on the field this year?
I'll tell you this. You got three guys that had the chance to go to the league in the linebacker room last year. You had me, Bam Martin-Scott, and D. Knight. And then you got a freshman still finding a way on the field as at linebacker when you already got three guys going to the league. That shows you how good he is. And so what can I expect? I expect for him to be All-SEC as a sophomore. And I'm saying that here live right now. And you hear me, Fred, JR, you hear me. You better do it, too, because I believe in you. So
what do y'all call him, Fred or JR?
We was older, so we called him Fred, but I'm pretty sure they probably call him JR.
Okay. We could not get him. We had him on for an interview, and I was like, what do you want to be called? I don't care.
I don't care. That's him. That's him for you. That's him.
I was like, no, what do you prefer? I don't care.
He just loves football. He just loves football, man.
Man, I mean, that's something, and you said it there, like, out of the guys, you just mentioned the three guys, yourself,
Yep.
You know, Bam, D. Knight, who's, you know, all of y'all have, like, freakish, you know, capability.
Our own
like,
abilities, yeah.
yeah, and for him to be the most athletic,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, he looks like a defensive end,
Yep.
you know, when you look at him. Like, if you just told, what position does this guy play, you'd
Yep.
be like, he's a defensive
And
end.
then
for
moves
sure.
like a receiver, though.
Yeah,
That's the crazy
Played
part.
receiver in high school. I mean,
Yep.
it was crazy. So, one more before we hit a break. So, I want to make sure that we hit on this. During the Clemson game last year, Shane Beamer called y'all over after Lenore scored, and I think you were in this group, and he said, "Hey, this is why y'all all came back, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep, he sure
Defensively." I remember seeing that clip and some of the stuff, and you know, he said y'all did make it a little close. Like,
Let's hit that on the other side.
yeah, let's hit it on the other side. We probably got to
Want to
expand
give him
on that a
time
little bit more.
to explain all that. We got to hit a break here. Debo Williams, former Gamecock, joining us in the studio. It is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs on your Monday on the game.
Yeah, I got. All right, let's tell you about one of our great partners here on the game. It's our friends over at Firehouse Subs. Shout out to Larry Chandler, owner and operator of all 17 now, guys, Midlands Firehouse Subs locations. So no matter where you are in the Midlands, guarantee there's going to be a Firehouse Subs close to you. Best ways to order, use the Rapid Rescue to go so your sub will be waiting on you when you get there. FirehouseSubs.com, or my favorite method, download the Firehouse Subs app. You can register for a free account there. Earn yourself some rewards toward future purchases. They've got all your Firehouse Subs favorites. If you go in the store, the hot sauce bar is back. Add some flavor to any sub when you dine in or pick up. The limited time offering of the Smokin' Barbecue Triple Stack and the Classic or the Carolina Gold. And, of course, like I said, all of your Firehouse Subs favorites are available. Lunch, dinner, catering, they've got it all. 17 locations around the Midlands, so there's a Firehouse Subs guaranteed to be close to you. FirehouseSubs.com or the app.
Welcome back in. It is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler West and Chris along with you on your Monday here on the game, hanging out with former Gamecock Debo Williams here in studio. We had to run to a break there, but Chris, we want to recount what happened at the end of the Clemson game last year.
Yeah, that was a good call, Wes. We needed a little more time for that. So Lenoris does the 3rd and 16 run, touchdown. Beamer calls y'all over, and this has been documented, like Justin King and his guys got this. He calls y'all over, a group, you're in it. He's like, this is what y'all came back to South Carolina for. There's a minute something on the clock. But he also joked later that y'all made it probably a little too close.
A little interesting.
A
I think.
little interesting at the end. But like, what were you thinking like going into that last series, watching that transpire, and then seeing D Knight get that pick at the end of the game?
So they were kind of driving on us a little bit. So for him to get that pick, it was definitely a sigh of relief. Like, let's go. But to go back to that huddle, I can go back. I can rewind back to December of 2023 when we went 5-7, and I made a group chat. It was me, Boogie Huntley, Nick Eman, Tonka Hemingway, T.J. Sanders, and this is the defense, and DQ as well. And I'm like, I'm coming back. I need y'all to be here with me, and I'm not leaving without a great season, like by any means. We're going for a national championship, and once I made that post, I made a big post, and I was like, job not finished. And that's a Kobe quote. And everybody start coming back. We start making it work, and we start adding a little bit more pieces. We added Kyle Kennard. We added Dylan Stewart. We added D. Knight. And so it was, let's go. Let's put this together. We need to be the best defense in the nation. And as the season came, we were showing that. I was going for donuts. Now, we ain't get no donuts, but we had a couple games with like 6 points. And we was like, okay, we got a chance. So fast forward to the Clemson game, it's like, all right, it's go time. It's nut cutting time. You feel me? Let's show who the best defense is. Let's show who the best team in South Carolina is.
I want to come back to that later on, the decision for all those guys to come back. But first, I want to give you an opportunity to talk a little bit about what you've been up to after the days at South Carolina.
Yep.
I know, first of all, you're a broadcast journalism student in the first place. And so I know that's something. I think at one point you had a podcast. That's something you've always kind of have interest in. But I know you're in the entrepreneurial space. Do you want to tell the Gamecock fans what you're up to, kind of what you're focused on right now?
Yep, yes, sir. So season finishes. We had our bowl game. I go right to training to get ready for the NFL. Didn't go how I expected it. Go undrafted. I go with the Steelers for a mini camp. Went really good. Everything was smooth. Didn't sign me. Okay. I'm just waiting for my name to be called. Somebody might call. Panthers, I have a private workout with them. Nothing goes about it. I'm like, okay. So I'm going through May, June, July, and I'm kind of just like, all right, no teams calling. All right, Bills got to get paid somehow. So I've always been an entrepreneur. Like I said, my major was broadcast journalism, so I know my talents. I know what I'm good at. I went through school, learning how to listen, learning all these things, going through football, learning how to be a leader. You got to be a great follower before you can be a great leader. So it's things that I learned. I'm like, all right, what can I do? I always want to be a businessman. Okay, entrepreneur. Let's be an owner, founder. Let's create something. So I became a lot more creative than what I ever thought I was. I ended up building a mobile app. The mobile app is called Spender Hotline. It'll be out this week. But it's a hotline for all. So no matter if you need relationship advice, if you need to talk about anything you need advice for, it could be relationship advice. It could be a construction worker. You want to learn how to work at McDonald's. It could be anything you can think of. You need a math tutor. It could be anything. You hop on this hotline. That's what it's for. So it'll be in the App Store this week. But it literally took everything that I learned in school, everything I learned on the field, I put it all together to become my own owner, my own founder.
What did you learn during the process of, because I think you can learn all this stuff in school, and that can be a foundation for what you want to build or business ownership or a business. And then I think there's little things that as you go along, you just kind of have to experience it to learn it. What have the last few months been like just in terms of kind of learning on a daily basis, and what is the actual process for building an app?
Yep, I got you. So it's been a tough process because it's like you got preseason games going on right now. And I know I very well could be on the team right now. And I could get a call any moment. I'm still training. I'm still in shape. I'm still cut, football shape. And I very well could get a call. But at the same time, watching that, it's kind of hard because it's like these are the people I was playing with. These are people I played against, and I was first team All-SEC against these players. So it's like, okay, that's nothing but motivation now. Now it's like, all right, what's the rookie contract? If they're getting this in 4 years, all right, as a business owner, I will beat that this year. And that's my mindset. That's the motivation for me. So it starts off with whatever your idea is, you have to put the groundwork in. So as far as you using notes, it could be something you write down. You're putting in the groundwork of the app. So exactly what it's going to look like, the layout. You can write what it looks like. You can write all the information. Then from there, I had to find a coder somebody who can plug it in, because I didn't go to school for that. So somebody who can plug it in. Then I needed to find some good lawyers who can do terms and conditions for me. And then from there, you kind of put it all together, and you got to put it through the App Store.
And so just to repeat, it's in processing right now, and then it'll be on the App Store.
Yep, this week.
Okay. How does that feel?
I can't even say it feels great yet until I see it.
Yeah.
So I can see it personally because I developed the app. But as far as seeing it in the App Store, I can't even tell you the feeling I'm going to have.
Right.
But it's just kind of like I made a way for myself. It doesn't just take football, you know. Sometimes where I grew up, and a lot of people with even just my skin color, that's all we know. We just know sports is the only way out. And so for me to be able to do this, I'm opening up another avenue for kids that grew up just like me. And to be able to do something like this, it's like I need to take this all the way. I need to be an inspiration to all the kids coming up like me.
What are your socials so people can, your social media?
Yeah, so on Instagram, I'm Team Debo0. Twitter, Debo Williams 13.
Okay, so everybody, be on the lookout.
Yep.
Make sure, I'm sure a lot of Gamecock fans are already following you on there, but I'm sure you'll have more information once the app comes out about it on there. So everybody check that out. You were talking about going for donuts earlier. Is that why you wear number 0 or no?
Yeah, that's definitely why I wear number 0.
Really? Did we know that?
So I don't think so.
Nah, that's not why. That's not why.
It's not?
Nah. But my
That'd be a
senior
great
year,
reason.
it felt like it my senior year for sure. But Russell Westbrook is my favorite NBA player, and he's always wore 0. And I kind of got the same attitude as far as playing. I'm always full speed. I'm rarely ever injured, God willingly. And I just love the game, and I'm going to give you everything I got on that field.
The group text with you and TJ and Boogie and DQ, all those guys, how fulfilling was it to have that conversation before the season and then go out and have a special season, and then just what will you remember about kind of suiting up with all those guys one last time?
It was legendary, man. It was very fulfilling because it was times during the season where when we beat Oklahoma or when people ran on the field when we beat Texas A&M and Clemson, it's like those type of games. It's like, this is why we came back. This is why we did this. So the feelings are surreal, and those are my brothers for life. Like, I could go without talking to one of them maybe 5 years, and I'll see him again and be like, it's all love. Like, anything he need, I got him. Anything I need, he got me. Like, that is a brotherhood for life.
Well, Debo, we appreciate you hanging out with us, man. Really cool that you're doing these things even outside of football while still obviously trying to pursue the football thing as well. And, man, you're a beloved member of this Gamecock community, and we're all cheering for you, man.
I truly thank y'all, man. I appreciate y'all having me on.
We'll have to do this again, okay?
Always.
And once we're working on this podcast studio out here. Love to have you in for like a long-form sit-down at some point soon. So, Debo, great catching up with you, man. Gamecock Nation, make sure you're following him and keeping up with the app, and keep us updated, okay?
I appreciate y'all. Thank you.
He is Debo Williams, former Gamecock. This is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs, here on your Monday on the Game.
All right, everyone, another one of our great partners here on the program, our friends over at Integrated Media. IntegratedMediaInc.com. Anything that you may need at your home or business from an AV or a tech standpoint, Michael, Nathan, the guys over at Integrated Media can handle it for you. If you want to see some examples of their past work, things that they've done at my house, Wes's home, people all around the Midlands, Integrated Media Columbia on Facebook or Instagram is where you can go to learn more. Or you can give them a call at 803-948-8327. They can do everything as simple as just mounting a TV. Hey, what kind of TV do I need in 2025? What are the best brands? To a complete smart home system. They can make sure that your Wi-Fi is up and running smoothly at your house for the college football season so you can stream across multiple devices, trick out that man cave patio area. anything that you may need. Again, integratedmediainc.com, or give them a call at 803-948-8327. Michael, Nathan, and Integrated Media.
Welcome back in. It is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler West, Chris, along with you on your Wednesday. What day is it? It's Monday here on the game.
How'd you come up with Wednesday? That's an interesting, like, are you just trying to get through, the week?
It's always like that in my head.
That's just one of those glitches. Like, you just don't know where it comes from.
I don't either. But either way, appreciate Debo Williams, his entire crew, for coming and hanging out with us. I was talking to one of his guys, Jordan, here during that last segment, and we were talking about there's a lot of guys that obviously continue to try and pursue the football thing, but that's kind of their only thing they're focused on. And when football's not happening for them, they don't really know what way to go. So it's neat to see that Debo, in addition to pursuing the football stuff, still has these other projects going on, things that he's passionate about, working with people that he's been friends with for a long time, and pursuing other goals, but still keeping the football dream on track as well.
Yeah, for sure. I frankly am a little bit surprised that there hasn't been another football call, just the way he plays the game.
Sure.
You know, even if it is like he told us about, he's a special teams guy when he first got to South Carolina. Even if it is, you know, special teams, practice squad, something like that, I think Debo still has something to give to the game of football. But like you said, very cool that he is using his skills that he learned at South Carolina and just his natural sort of instinct and will to want to be successful and using it off the field. So it was awesome to catch up with Debo. Lots of good stuff there. Yeah, I think we probably actually could have kept him in here a little bit longer and gone into some more football stuff, but that was great to hear from him, man. And obviously a guy who I remember when he committed to South Carolina and we were going, who is this guy? Why did he not have, you know, a little more interest?
Out of high school.
Yeah.
And in the portal.
Yeah, and then very quickly, I feel like he was one of those guys who were hearing, hey, this guy kind of has something about him. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, he does.
In a positive way.
You know, I looking back at his time, like you're right. I remember that vividly. You know, one of the early transfer portal gets, and it's like, all right, well, here's a guy who was playing at a small school but didn't play. So, you know, you bring in some transfers, and it's like, okay, it's Spencer Rattler, or even like, okay, it's Demetrius Knight. He's had some years in college. Kyle Kennard, like, you can see some of the stats. Like, he was kind of an unknown from that standpoint. So you really had to go back to high school to kind of learn about what is the potential here. And if you talked to his high school head coach, a guy named Mike Judy, or just went back and read some of the stuff in high school, like he was a stud. I mean, he started all 4 years. He was a captain, won 2 state titles. He was a defensive player of the year in this conference. He set the school single season record for tackles, all state, 500 tackles in high school, right? So, you know, Delaware is not a hotbed for football talent. You know, Marshawn Lloyd would talk about that a lot. Now, he was a 5-star, but he played at DeMatha in Maryland. Even if Marshawn Lloyd had played at Smyrna High, you know, would he have been a 5-star? I don't know.
Sure.
You know, but there's an argument that maybe not. It's not like going to Atlanta to recruit or something.
Yeah,
It's a little
yeah.
different. But he very quickly, I mean, Debo laid it out there. He made an impact on special teams early, game 1 of his career, and just continued that progression to where by the end, he was one of those guys that Beamer's calling over on the sidelines before a pivotal drive in the Clemson game.
And he's an example of something that we talk about a lot with the success that Beamer's had out of the portal. And look, not every single guy they brought in has turned out to be a starter or somebody that's made a really big impact, but he's an example of one of those guys that, again, when you get a guy from Delaware that didn't even play in his first year because they got their season postponed, you don't really think a whole lot of it if you're a fan, but coming in here, finding his way on the field quickly on special teams, and developing with Clayton Wright, not only as his DC, but as his individual linebackers coach, like you guys mentioned a little bit earlier on. You saw that progress to where he legitimately was one of the best players on this defense by the end, and kind of that leader in that very important linebacker room a year ago. So that was a shining example of how successful you can be with somebody out of the portal that you bring in, develop over time, and ends up playing such a huge role in what was a historic defense a year ago.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting, the just decision by all those guys. And I actually maybe wish we had asked him a little bit more on just why he came back. You know, all those guys, I think it gets a little bit glossed over now that you see how it all played out. The fact that, you know, all those guys he was talking about, Debo, Boogie, Tonka, TJ, if they had wanted to go in the portal, they very easily could have had, you know, it wouldn't have been just one school calling this time for Debo, like he said, after the portal the first time around. And, you know, they all made the decision to come back. And if they don't, then we're not sitting here talking about South Carolina having won 9 games last year. We're just not. And so I think that's something, especially if this thing goes, you know, if this thing goes to the moon, so to speak, this year, and like South Carolina goes to the college football playoff and it just takes off, I think we're going to look back on that group and look back on those decisions and kind of say, hey, this did help set a foundation. But, boys, let's bring it forward a little bit his J.R. Johnson comments.
That was
I
the other
thought
thing that really stood out. Yeah.
I thought were fascinating, and you could tell. You know, I think he was saying without saying, like, hey, there are still some things that J.R. is going to have to learn about being a linebacker, just in terms of diagnosing plays and knowing what the offense wants to do against you. But another confirmation. I mean, I understand why Nick Harbor leads the freaks list in terms of South Carolina players, but there is a very strong case to be made that J.R. Johnson actually may be the best pure athlete on this football team.
Yeah, I mean, that really stood out. To hear someone who's on the team say it. And it's an additional layer of confirmation, but not only that, like Debo's stacking him up against himself and D-Knight and Bam, right? Like JR is said to have maybe some of the characteristics where maybe he's pulling something from each of those guys. He's not exactly like – everybody loves player comparisons, which, as you know, Wes, I'm not always great at, but he's maybe got some pieces of all those guys in his game, but is also different. That was pretty alarming in a good way, like to hear that. And again, that's the reason why the coaching staff, we've talked about this a lot, they feel good about what they have in that linebacker room from a talent standpoint. It's more about the experience factor, right? Debo Williams' first year, 2021, you didn't know that he was going to become the Debo Williams that he ultimately became as a senior. He was mostly playing special teams. That's frankly what JR did last year. He played in all 13 games, mostly on special teams. So, when you look at him, his size, his ceiling, like the pro traits, you can see that he's got room to get way better, like better and better. He's got pro potential. He just needs snaps. He just needs that experience, I think.
Absolutely. We'll come back. We'll wrap up the hour, hit our 13 days until kickoff trivia question as we wrap up the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs here on your Monday on the Game. All right, welcome back in. It is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tower West Chris wrapping up your hour here on your Monday on the Game. Reminder, the Game Summer Golf Classic is coming at the end of the week. We're going to be out at Charwood Golf Club on Friday all day long for the Summer Golf Classic, sponsored by Krager Showrooms, formerly the Nest and the Vista. Tea time's at 9. Registration begins at 7:30. We'll have onion sausages for breakfast, mimosa bar provided by Saki's Wine and Spirits, and Firehouse Subs for lunch as well. Prizes and the golf gun makes its return. If you want to take part, it's $400 for a team. Call 803-755-2000. Press number 2. Sign up for the Games Summer Golf Classic, sponsored by Krager Showrooms. I didn't get to do this at the beginning of the show because we had Debo in, but also need to thank everybody for listening in Charleston on our new station, WIWF 96.3 HD3. So we're being heard pretty much across the entire state now, guys, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, shout out Charleston. Hopefully they know that they should be listening at this point.
Sure.
Because we've been telling them to listen, but if they're not listening, they wouldn't know to listen.
Well, we'll have to go down there and do our own campaign.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So
make a sign.
Yeah, excited to be out in Charleston finally after we've been talking about it here for the past couple weeks. It is 13 days until kickoff, though, until South Carolina, Virginia Tech start the season. Got to hit our 13 days until kickoff trivia question. Today, talking about Shi Smith. In 2020, Shi Smith became the first player in school history to record double-digit receptions in back-to-back games. What were those games?
I thought you were going Savell Newton here. I'll be honest. Didn't do a lot of research on Savell either. Just
okay.
off memory.
See, sometimes not the most obvious thing.
Okay, read it one more time. Okay, back-to-back,
yes,
double-digit receiving.
Reception games, the first player in program history to do that. Do you know what 2 games those were in 2020?
Back-to-back games.
Are we allowed to look at a 2020 schedule?
Yes, that's what I was going to ask.
You can look at a 2020 schedule, just not his game log from 2020.
Because I had a thought in my mind, and then exactly like Wes, I'm like, I couldn't even name 2 back-to-back games, especially in that weird season.
It was a weird year. A lot of people checked out before the season was over.
Yeah, you got to also realize a lot of Gamecock fans have just deleted that entire year from existence.
Well, I think the entire 2020 college football season is easy to forget large chunks of it because how bizarre the year itself was.
Yeah.
Man, the game that came to mind was Ole Miss as for one of them, but then I'm just not. I don't know. You know what? I'm just going the first 2, which were Tennessee and Florida.
That's kind of where my head went too, though, man.
I'm going with those 2. Not convicted strongly either way.
I think you might be right though, because I feel like he came out of the chute, and it was very apparent early on that he not only was going to be the top target, but that say what you want about Mike Bobo, a lot of people do say what they want about Mike Bobo,
run the ball,
but he will get the ball. Like, if he has one guy, he will find a way to manufacture ways to get him the ball.
Sure.
Chris might be right, but let me. I mean, they didn't. Some of these games they didn't score enough for him to have caught double-digit balls. I feel like. Can I say the same answer, and then if we're both right, you just
each get the point.
All right, I'll go the same answer then.
You guys are both correct. It was the Tennessee and Florida game.
You're welcome, Wes.
No, I'm just kidding.
To start things off, he had 10 receptions for $140 against Tennessee with a touchdown, 12 receptions for 85 yards and a touchdown against Florida.
12 for 85. That's a weird stat line. The whole year was super weird,
Mm-hmm.
But that was the year we were coming in all right, who's going to be that guy? For Carolina, and it ended up being him, to his credit.
I think we thought he would be the guy, but we also wondered what that would look like. What was he going to be able to take that step, or were we all just going to be saying the whole time, South Carolina does not, they don't have a number 1. They just have, some number 2s and some number 3s. And shout to his credit, I mean, took a step forward. But guys, if you go back and look at some of those offenses South Carolina had, kind of right before that, like 2018, 2019, and the receivers that they trotted out there, I mean, they had talent on those offenses. I mean, Rico Daddle, who was playing running back, my man is still in the league right now.
Yep.
Hayden Hurst at tight end. I mean,
It was a first-round pick.
there was talent on those offenses.
That's what made it all the more frustrating
that's-
at times during that tenure when you're scrapping to get
Yeah.
13, 16 points.
Well, that's the thing between that, like what some of the guys on defense in 2019, it's like, how do you have this much talent but can only win 2, 3, 4 games?
And there were, 2018, they averaged, I think, 30 points a game. Like they had, it was uneven.
Sure.
They had some games where you're like, wow, this is a really good offense, and then others where it was kind of uneven. But that 2020 team, that, like I said, that's a weird season. Ended up being a 2-win season. It was the impetus for a coaching change. That's why Shane Beamer's here now. But there's actually talent, I would say, Wes, too, defensively, too, on that team. And they just couldn't put it together. Depth, injuries, coach, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. By the way, you weren't wrong. He did have 10 receptions for 117 against Ole Miss. That was just by itself later on in the season.
Just an outlier.
Impetus. Good word.
In the game, they lost by 17 points after scoring 42.
And that was when Kevin Harris went off, too. So, very odd year. By the way, guys, isn't it week 0? Like,
It's officially week 0.
it's here.
So are you ready? You seemed
I
in
didn't
the
want to
group
upset
chat.
you by bringing it up.
Yeah, you seemed mildly intrigued by Farmageddon, Wes.
Wes is going to watch it. I know he is.
Well, guys, I was proving 2 points there. One, yeah, I may watch.
Okay.
I'll be honest.
We've converted him.
No, you have not. 2, the fact that there has not been a top 25 matchup in 25 years in week 0 kind of proves my point of how awful it normally is.
Still, it's football, man.
It's
It
not
counts.
football. There's a certain point where it's just not football.
Does it count? Do the wins and losses count towards your overall record?
Yeah, that doesn't mean I have to watch.
Matters to me.
This is like when you go to a place and they don't really have great food, but there's one fantastic appetizer that everybody says you have to get the shrimp appetizer. That's what this top 25 matchup is. So yeah, I will partake.
We can agree to disagree on that. I'm taking in the whole day.
All right.
Yeah, week 0.
I'll be there too.
Only a few days
Tyler,
away.
We'll text
They'll
about
be
it.
off and running for week 1 next week. That'll do it for the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Again, thank you to Debo Williams and his crew for hanging out. And we'll talk about more tomorrow. Coming up next, halftime show, myself and Scott Hamilton for the Post and Courier. Up next here on the game.
As we close out the show here, one more outstanding partner to tell you about is our friends over at Game Day Men's Health. So if you're a guy and you're struggling with some unwanted symptoms like weight gain, muscle loss, if you're having trouble sleeping, if you find yourself fatigued, tired, go get checked out. Game Day Men's Health. That's GameDayMen'sHealth.com. Conveniently located in Northeast Columbia, right near I-77 and 290.